Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft Presents the Economic Times Digital Transformation Series 2016. Request you all to kindly put your cell phones on silent mode. You could also tweet using the Twitter handle #digitaltransformation. Digital transformation is transforming businesses globally. It has actually transformed business activities, processes, competencies, and models to fully leverage the change and opportunities of digital technologies and their impact across society in a strategic and prioritized way. We are gathered here today to understand how technology can radically improve performance and the reach of enterprises. I would now like to call upon Mr. Deepak Padaki, EVP, Group Head, Corporate Strategy and Chief Risk Officer, Infosys, and Mr. Balasubramaniam Somasundaram, Digital Architect for Microsoft, to begin with the session on perception versus reality. Transformation today is a top priority of businesses. However, every industry or sector functions in different ways. Thus, technology has been molding its ways to make work easier and better. In this session, on one hand, we have an industry leader bringing forth the myth and challenges with technology. On the other, we have Microsoft who will highlight the reality. Mr. Bala and Deepak.
Thanks. Mic is on? Yep. Hi, good morning. I'm Deepak. I head strategy and I'm also the risk officer at Infosys. So perception and reality both together, right? On the strategy side, I say it will work. On the risk side, I say it will not work. So.
Yeah, so let me introduce myself, Ms. Balasubramaniam. I am from Digital Advisory Services within Microsoft. So we do digital advisory services for our CXO clients, especially Microsoft India. So we used to do IT strategy and planning earlier. Now actually we have progressed from both the IT strategy as well as digital strategy together, moving beyond Chief Information Officer to CXOs as well.
So the perception is that this is a well-planned session. The reality is that we met a few minutes ago. But I think the idea of this session was, on the one side, for me to represent all of you as the industry, and to really talk about and bring out the reality. There's a lot of perception about what we are going through, and the reality could be something different. And I think through the day today, the idea is to really talk about challenges and not necessarily only the good stuff that's happening. So I think there's no doubt about it that technology is disrupting industries all over the world, all kinds of industries, and very significantly, very rapidly. And for the IT and ITES companies here in the room, I'm sure my colleagues will agree with me that we have a big role to play in helping our clients in these industries to actually transform and handle this disruption that's happening with technology. But at the same time, when you look at disruption, our own industries are also going through quite a bit of disruption. And I think this is where we want to focus the conversation today. It's not so much of what we are doing for our clients, but really are we geared ourselves to handle this disruption. And that's really the topic of today's discussion. So I'm going to start with a simple show of hands. How many of you think that your organization is ready for the disruption that's happening to our own industries? Big majority think we are not ready, right? I guess in a sense that's reality. So I think one of the big questions, at least from the IT side, I can say, and Bala, you can respond to this.
Sure.
The perception is that, on the one hand, automation is the big technology that's disrupting us. And the perception is that if we embrace automation too fast, then essentially it will cannibalize us, right? Because the existing businesses that we have are huge cash cows. They're growing rapidly. So the perception is that if you bring in automation too fast, then it's going to cannibalize us.
Sure.
So what's the reality?
So, let me just start. I think, one of the key questions which we used to get often when we talk to chief executives of our clients, be it ITES clients as well as other verticals, is that, what do you mean by digital, right? I mean, digital means very contextual. It has different interpretations for different industries, and what exactly do you mean from an industry perspective, from Microsoft perspective, and what it exactly means to us? That is number one. And how do we actually respond to that? Right? These are two key questions I think the CXOs are contemplating with from a overall embracing that particular paradigm from their respective industries. That is number one. The second one, going to the answer Deepak's question on automation, we have three buckets, right? One is fundamentally how digital is going to impact your business model itself. The second one is processes, and the third one is people perspective, right? I think the first question predominantly is on people, right? From a automation perspective, if I embrace automation in my portfolio, will it cannibalize my existing business, right? And one of the key trends, I think, if you observe Gartner from an IT services perspective, if you actually put that in a pyramid, you have consulting services, and you have traditional system integration and application development services, and you have infrastructure management services. And if you see Gartner's predictions for the next couple of years, the lowermost, the infrastructure management services, is actually going to dwindle in terms of the revenues. Right? So the infrastructure management services is going to decline in terms of revenues. The application development services as well as the system integration services are going to be highly competitive because the rest of the players are equally competitive and expertise in the respective areas. The top one is actually growing, right? From a consulting perspective as well as the client-facing, the business-focused services, which will actually forge relationship with the respective business units and then develop the business, right? So from that perspective, it would give a clear picture of where the industry is heading in terms of the three portfolios. So when you say that the automation is going to actually take away, so for example, when I was talking to one of the key clients on infrastructure management services, they used to have data center management services, they used to have mail server management services. All of that would be completely challenged when the cloud is coming to the picture, right? For example, if the mail servers as well as data center management services are going to be directly provisioned by cloud, so what would be the role of IT services in provisioning those services on-premises, right? That would be a direct compete. So I wouldn't say that it would cannibalize the IT services existing business, it would displace the revenues, right? I would put it this way. When I speak to some of the CIO's office, when the CIO is actually engaging us in terms of automation services, how can I apply automation in my portfolio? Some of the people in the CIO's team really do question us in terms of, will it actually take away people's jobs? Will it actually, automate or take away the people's roles, because they have been doing this particular role for a number of years. So what would be their concerns? How would they be addressed? The key question is that it would displace the jobs, right? It would not take away the jobs. When it displaces, it would also give the equal opportunity for people to focus on high value-added workloads in their respective portfolio, right? That's how we see it from a reality perspective.
So automation more as an amplifier than just a cannibal.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that leads me to a second one, which is you talked about digital. So today the perception in the industry is that at least Indian IT firms and IT-enabled firms are not growing as fast in digital, right?
Absolutely.
And digital, the perception in the market and with investors is that digital means cloud, security, analytics, mobile.
Sure.
Is that real?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, right? It's often contested in terms of what do you mean by digital? What does the industry means by digital? Because different fraternities have different interpretations in terms of what is meant by digital. I would like to quote one important, a definition from Gartner itself. IT, the traditional IT and the CIO's office, if you have to define what exactly is the IT's function is basically IT is a technology answer to a business question, right? So basically, business comes to you and then says that, I have these number of requirements, how can I actually IT support me in rolling out or deploying these functions, right? So technology is answering to a business question, which assumes that, the business is basically pretty much well-defined, it's going to be static, stable for the next couple of years, it can actually roll out, so there it's a downstream, right? Business strategy gets defined first, and then it rolls down to the IT strategy. IT defines what are the programs and initiatives. It just runs for 3 years, be it ERP or CRM, and then it being a very trusted partner for business, right? but that's getting challenged. Then what do you mean by digital? Digital is basically about, digital is asking question to the business strategy. The question is, how is business is going to survive and thrive in an increasingly digital savvy world? Right? How is it going to engage the digital savvy customers? Right? How is it going to engage in terms of, because the technology becomes equally available, for example, right from a food delivery startup to all the way up to the aircraft engine service, the technology, be it cloud or the platforms, all the technology, general purpose technologies as well as the niche technologies are available to all the providers in a democratized manner. So, which means that the entrepreneurs from the respective fields can come from nowhere, right? So, if the disruption is coming from nowhere to any of the industries from a nimble startup, how is the business is going to respond to that particular threat in a very opportunistic manner? So, which means that technology is going to be embedded as part and parcel of the business. So, the business model is going to be completely redefined, and how is business is ready for that, how is the IT is ready for that. Of course, the CXO has a lot more role to play. So, from that perspective, digital has a truly fundamental impact on the company's business model. That's how we see it.
So, essentially, more than just being an offering from our companies, it's about what is the change that it does to the client.
Absolutely.
And is it changing is transforming
Absolutely.
his business. Sure. So that leads me to the next perception, which is that, yeah, so the perception is that most Indian IT companies and IT enabled companies predominantly work with the CIO and the technology organizations, right? And what you're saying is, if it's digital and if it's digital disruption, then it should be, of course, a business side impact.
Absolutely.
Right? And if we have to transform and begin to address business problems, the perception is that we need very significant and expensive investments in the front end of our organizations, that's consulting, sales, in the kind of people that we have. And this is really an expensive investment because, you know, we are all used to this offshore model where we get good margins by offshoring. So in order to understand clients and move towards personalized services for them, the perception is that it is going to be expensive.
Yeah. So which is partly true. I wouldn't rule that out completely. So for example, when we are talking about the business model disruption, sometimes the business model disruption could happen locally in the respective countries. For example, if you are talking about, say for example, I was talking to one of the investment banking firms, a few months ago. One of the key questions is that, for example, wealth management, you have financial planners and wealth advisors who used to have deep client relationships and advise them on near-term, long-term financial plans. You know what, I think that's going to be replaced with robo-advisors in the next couple of years. So that's going to be tremendously impacting. So this is not a technology question, right? When the robo-advisors are going to come back and then advise and engage clients in terms of their financial plans for the next 3, 5 years. So that is going to have a key question. So what do their existing wealth advisors going to do from a business perspective, right? That's going to have a far-reaching impact. So if that is going to be the case, what would be the new revenue lines that investment banking needs to innovate so that they keep their surviving and thriving mode in a continuum manner? So from that perspective, yes, it would require a good amount of investment in client development, business development, high-end consulting, client understanding, some amount of customer insights in the respective markets that you have. But the investment model could be different. For example, it need not all the way be in-house. So some of the suggestions which I would have is that, for example, partnering, because since it requires customer understanding, some amount of business development, domain expertise, for example. Let's say if you have to engage a manufacturing company, absolutely you would need domain expertise as well. So partnering, alliances, joint ventures, open innovation, so those are some of the things which could help in bringing down the cost dramatically.
Sure. So more fundamental question, I think, is the perception is that we are all on certain strategic themes, and we can beat the gravity of our existing business with this new stuff, right? All the new services which are digital disruption and so on. Because today, like it or not, 90% of our businesses are still in the traditional services. And the perception is, yes, we can beat the gravity of this existing business while we transform to the new things. And maybe to get the reality, I want a show of hands. Do you think that what we have going on the new stuff is needle moving yet? If it's needle moving, raise your hand. All right, not too bad.
So to answer your question, I think that's a I mean, to quote our own example, right, from Microsoft standpoint, I
Yeah.
think we used to be a personal computing company. But actually, if you look at us, we are actually transforming ourselves from a more personal computing company to a platform and productivity company, which is predominantly on cloud. So cloud is the fastest growing portfolio in our group of businesses, and it's actually slowly competing with our rest of the portfolios as well. So which means the case from a change perspective, how exactly you change from your revenue mix and portfolio mix. Definitely your new revenue lines has the potential to change or compete with the gravity of your existing business lines, and sometimes it could be completely non-linear. And if you look at the valuations of the new technology-based startups, and if those could be one of your clients, why not?
Absolutely. Yep. So the next perception is that we can rapidly build our own technology, right? And I'm coming at this question because traditionally we are more a process-driven industry. And here we are talking about in the next generation, digital is happening because of technology, and so each of us needs to build our own technology, right? So the perception is that yes, we can build this technology on our own and compete with the innovation that's coming from younger companies, startup companies, and so on.
Absolutely. So you definitely can, because you have a humongous wealth of the talent inside the company. So from that perspective, I think there is a potential for developing technology elements in 3 areas. One is basically the platform elements in terms of how exactly, for example, let's say if you're called upon for a banking financial services company, how do you manage the banking data or a customer 360-degree view? I mean, what kind of platforms that you can provide? So that's more from a platform perspective. And the second one is experiences, right? Now that you have tremendous amount of data from a banking customers, what kind of new insights can you drive? What kind of analytics packages that you have, especially for banking customers in North America or Indian customers, right? So that requires humongous amount of insights and data assets and all of that. So I think from a not the core technology perspective, but there is a tremendous amount of potential for building assets in the application space of it. Right, in these 3 buckets. One is platforms, experiences, as well as the content in terms of new information services that can be offered as a business service for your new clients.
So related to that, again, a question for the audience. How many of you think that it will take too long for us to build this on our own, and therefore we must buy our way out of this and acquire? So
yeah.
There's another view on this.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think including Infi, I think most of the leading companies are actually doing a lot of acquisitions in these new spaces, be it cloud or digital consulting. I think a lot of these spaces. I think the key question is that how these pearls are going to be actually stitched together in driving the next major growth revenue. I think that's going to be the key thing. How significantly it's going to impact your overall business in the next 3 to 5 years. I think that's going to be the key.
So that brings me to another point, which is around the processes that we have in our company, right? We are all, at least many of the IT firms here are large employers, hundreds of thousands of people, grown very fast over the last 2 decades. We have processes that have been built for scale, right? Yeah. And the perception now is that we have processes that are agile enough, because the new world requires us to be agile and innovative and all of that stuff, right? So if the perception is that our enterprise processes are sufficiently agile to embrace this new change and this new innovation, what is the reality?
Yeah. So the reality is that the processes which are actually right now active in most of the IT services companies are tuned or designed for efficiency, right? How fast or how efficiently can I deliver this software code to my end clients, be it infrastructure management services or application development services? The key question, the key metric which should be measured is that efficiency. I think be it agile also from an application development point of view. I think the next key metric is that how agile are we in being effective and innovative. I think that's fundamentally changing the KPI of these processes as well. How are we actually, I'm sure, I've been reading that Infosys has been training a whole lot of your workforce in design thinking as well as other rest of the stores. So, which means that you're also tuning your workforce for effectiveness and innovation as well. So, which with the training as well as learning and development, definitely that can be put in place. But the processes you have is designed for efficiency, but I think what is the need is for effectiveness and innovation.
Sure. People agree with that in general? So that brings me to the point about culture. I think again the perception is that all of the large companies in India are trying to change their workforce, right? That the culture of the workforce is moving. You know, we want everybody to innovate. We want everybody to change. Is that really what's happening?
Oh yeah. So the culture is basically that, you know, for example, some of the workforce demographic is getting changed radically, right? You have these youngsters who are joining the workforce fresh out of college, or, you know, 1 or 2 years experience. They actually work hard, but they have a different kind of expectations in terms when they get into the industry. So from that perspective, let's say the company calls you or mandates them for innovation, and then, you know, showing the effectiveness you know, in their day-to-day jobs. I think one of the key expectations from them as well is that how exactly my innovation, my piece of work is going to impact my end customer or impact my business. Can I feel it, or am I you know, far off the chain that, you know, I wouldn't be able to feel the impact, but I would only be a contributor. So from that perspective, the culture, I think again, just to quote the good example from Infi, is that I think you have zero distance, or one of the key initiatives where you have the actual project teams directly interfacing with the clients with not much of a middle layer which is coming in between for interfacing, which is a true example where the end developer or whoever has joined in the industry recently would have an opportunity to actually talk to the client and then do an impact. That is number one. The second one is from a cultural perspective is that how exactly are we transforming ourselves? You know, when I was talking to some of the CIOs and CFOs, is that the data culture, right? How many of the decisions that we are taking based on data as well as insights, as well as, you know, the real-time data that we have, because you have humongous amount of data which is actually collated over a period of years. How can we actually garner insights from that particular data? How can we tune our operations as well as business? So that requires a radical departure from, you know, the decision-making culture as well. So that absolutely it calls for a change from a cultural perspective or across the layers. But I think the industry can make it happen, because one is the talent, you have the you know, insights as well as the partners who can make it happen.
Sure. I want to ask the audience if you have any other perceptions or realities that you want to talk about, or any other areas that we should probe. Sure.
Hi everyone, this is Rajan. One of the things which, while it's a very good topic to speak about digitalization and how we are moving towards, a lot of companies have started using digital as a way, as you have said, to not only in a business development perspective, where they are able to go in and have this constant touch points managed with their you know, their prospective customers,
right,
and have this as a channel or a funnel of revenue apart from your generic activities in sales. So you know, would like to know your thoughts on that. From a Microsoft perspective, I know Microsoft is more of the soft selling and relationship, but you know, we also have the IBMs of the world, which is, you know, from a brand building perspective, they do the digitalization. So how is it, you know, the industry is moving towards that?
So sorry, could you please summarize the last line? I mean, you are.
Yeah. So how do you find the big players in the industry are adapting to that? You find a very small player coming in using the digital technologies, yeah, and kind of capitalizing the market share at a very, very high level. And when we are talking about the adaptation and managing the brand building aspects, how the big players are, you know, can take on this digitalization more aggressively.
Yeah. So you mean to say, when you said that the big players in the IT services business or the technology business, somebody like Microsoft? Okay.
How are you? Yeah. So how are we thwarting the smaller companies that are coming in?
No,
I'll take a stab at it, and Bharat, then you can add on this.
Sure.
See, even I can speak for my company, but I'm sure the experience is similar for many of my peers and colleagues here. The new age companies that are coming up, when we go and meet with them, they are talking to the exact same clients that we go to, right? Which is the big Fortune global companies, right? It's not like the old world where the new entrant usually starts at the bottom of the client pyramid, the small businesses, and then works itself up, right? What we are seeing is that these companies are coming with innovation targeted at the most complex problems, right? Which traditionally large companies like ours used to address for our clients. And that is the reality, right? These companies are there. But what happens is that because they are small, they tend to address a small pain point of the client. Whereas most of us, we have broader offerings which tackle the full length of the business problems, right? The enterprise level business problems. So definitely, I think the two ways that we are trying to address this problem, and I think it's the same for an IBM or an Accenture or an Infosys or a Wipro or anybody, is that on the one hand, you need to embrace this change. You need to get that innovation into your offerings, right? So either through a partnership or a acquisition, or actually build some competing products for that. And the second is to keep looking at how this fits into the larger picture, because you are the insurance to the client, right? You have the trusted relationship. So it's very important to push that part of the offering, right? Smaller companies are able to take more risk. They have more agile. They are able to bring product features much faster, but they tend to address a small part of the overall problem. So that would be my view. I don't know, Hari, you should comment as well. So.
I have a slightly different view of technology.
Sure.
One is the discussion here seems to have more focused on technology now. If you broadly
Sure.
step out of
Sure.
the technology discussions that you've had, if you look at what is this doing, on a much larger, broader space. One is, while, if you refer to one of the McKinsey studies recently, while the cross-border flow of goods and finance actually lost momentum after the 2008 financial crisis, and it stagnated and it's actually declined. But at the same time, if you look at the cross-border flow of data,
Information.
it's actually grown 45x from 2005 to 2014 and expected to grow another 9x, that's an estimate, by 2020. That means you actually have a data and commerce flow of data across border grow up 400 times in 15 years, right? While you have the conventional flow of finance and goods stagnate. Now this enables businesses very differently and individuals very differently. What you were referring to, small companies being able to go ahead and attend to our customers' problems, you're actually able to have micro multinationals.
Yep.
Individuals are able to offer their services across the border.
Right.
All this is doing different things to the way business is actually going to get conducted.
That's right.
Other view that I have is that I was talking to friends here, that this is not something that has happened overnight.
Absolutely.
If you look at the digital movement, it's been there. It's only attained gravity or the critical mass, and it's now become a growling animal, threatening to displace status quo, right? So I would look at that in terms of how does it impact conventional business, how does it impact governments,
Yes.
and how does it impact people. On the people, if you let me, I'll make a small comment.
Sure.
While you talked of innovation and how does it sort of, my view is there is a very interesting idea called or view of there is this guy called Guy Standing. So Guy Standing, he's an economist, but he has come up with this view that he calls it the precariat chatter. In the sense, it is precarious and proletariat. put together. So he says the workforce will constantly live in a situation that is precarious. In the sense, the traditional old secured work environment will change. And so that is why he calls it the precariat charter. It is essentially all of us in working in that space. Now, this is also getting done because of what's happening in technology. So how do you deal with some of this? And I'm saying that in future you might see guys working for multiple companies.
Yeah,
Infosys and Wipro at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do you sort of deal and navigate in this space to get innovation from your teams is also going to be another challenge.
Absolutely.
Interesting challenge.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let me leave it at
No,
that.
I think there's great points, especially on the, so you're right on the first part, we try to keep this discussion more to what we should be doing rather than what we should be doing for our clients, and hence the focus. But to your point on the people, I think that's the reality actually I wanted to bring out. It's very easy to say that, we will make people innovators and so on, but the ground reality is that the demographics and the mindset of people itself is very different today. There's an oft-quoted example that in the, before the 60s, people used to be wedded to, a company, right? You work for GE, you work for GE for life. And then it became a profession. If you're a carpenter, you're a carpenter, your son is a carpenter, and you have carpentry. And you're dedicated to the profession. You don't mind which company you work for as long as you're doing carpentry, right? And then now it has moved into, I work for myself, right? So I might do something for 6 months, I might do something completely different for the next 6 months. And this is a challenge that enterprises have, which have grown up expecting predictability with workforce, expecting predictability with the processes, the homogeneity of the workforce. I mean, look at all of us, right? We go to the same pools of people that we recruit because we want the homogeneity in that pool, and you can move it like a factory, right? But what happens if everybody works differently, right? And to your point, more and more, the Uberization of the workforce is also happening, and your company is a great example of something that you bought recently, where you have essentially farming out jobs, and instead of having 200,000 people, you have 2 million people around the world who can do work for you, right? But on a part-time basis. So I think these are the realities of the people part of the equation, where there is a whole lot of other underlying issues in order to meet that perception that we can change, and I think that's a great point.
So just to add to that point, I think that's a real issue. I think from a people perspective, how they are going to be adaptive for the change. Just to quote our CEO, Satya once said that this industry, I mean, not really from an IT services perspective, from a technology industry perspective, this industry doesn't actually respect from a legacy perspective, but it respects the innovation. So from that perspective, a new player who is small and nimble enough can completely displace an existing legacy player, so which is also actually going to disrupt not just the business, but the people who are working in that. So one of the key things which we have been sharing the perspective is that, as you rightly mentioned, I think earlier career used to be that one person joins a company and then just sit there for 30 years, where the business was static, business was predictable, and you can determine in terms of what the business trajectory is going to go for the next. But here it's dynamic, right? From a dynamic perspective, you are constantly on a cycle in terms of the cycle could be 3 years, the cycle could be 5 years, or it could be months as well. So how is our workforce tuned to that particular cycle, especially in digital business? I'm not saying that applying this all across the portfolio, especially in the digital portfolio, what is the cycle that we are dealing with, and what is the safety net, and what's the kind of learning and development mechanisms which we are provisioning to our workforce? I think that's going to be fundamental to enable and then motivate the workforce.
Sure.
From purely from a workforce management perspective, in my view, what's going to be challenging to technology and the digital part is how do you get to deal with the large, disparate, mobile workforce?
Yes.
They are not essentially committed to you as an organization in the traditional sense, but they are committed to you in delivering value for what you get paid, what they get paid. So how do you quantify that? Those, I think, are going to be
the new challenges.
Huge
Absolutely.
Workforce management challenge. And how do you tap into innovation using some of these, I think, are going to be difficult. defining
which is
for the future.
fundamentally different, absolutely.
Also, I think it's
Absolutely.
the corollary to that is one, how do you value the work of micro projects? But the second is, how do you derive larger value by putting micro projects together? Today we work as companies where there's defined functions and you know how to generate business value from that. And now you're talking of a group of people in a company who assemble all these outputs and create some more value out of that. I think, and you know, there's very little that we have done in the past in this area which we should look at. I'd like to ask folks from the non-IT industry here, so that you don't get left out, on some of the challenges and perceptions that you are seeing. I don't know who's from a non-technology company here. Anybody want to say something? On, you know, the disruption that you yourself are seeing in your companies and, you know, how you are dealing with it.
And by the way, just to answer, you know, just the observation on the workforce, you know, these challenges might as well be new opportunities, right? In terms, new business opportunities, absolutely. And in the sense, you know, I forgot the name of that particular company in the US. I think it's a startup in the HR, capital management, human resource management. What do? Their business model is that they sell the software, the workforce management software, in terms of their payroll and other stuff. It's completely free. And how do they actually capture the value in that particular software? They actually sell the insurance for their workforce, right? So which is totally not thought of, right? Do you categorize them as a enterprise software company or an insurance company, right? So that's the kind of models which are evolving when it comes to digital. So you know, all these challenges could.
But the pace of disruption is such that soon there will be somebody offering free insurance and
yeah,
selling
absolutely.
the health and wellness package on top of it. Right?
Absolutely. So that's a speed at which the industry is evolving. So sorry.
Any other thoughts?
You had,
yeah, someone here. Yeah,
So Deepak, I think one of the things which we didn't talk as much would be, you know, collaboration with outside partners.
Yes.
I think we talked about internal culture, workforce, and you know, one of the critical aspect of digital is having that ecosystem development or participating in an ecosystem, depending on what's the starting point for an organization, and you know, actually debating how good we are in fostering those relationship and fostering those relationship fast enough as digital business expect. And we have seen those great examples in consumer world. It's similar examples exist in technology world. I think that's one area where it'll be good to have thoughts on how fast we can forge those partnership, whether it is with established companies, startups, or you know, the individual entrepreneurs, the way we were talking about.
No, it goes straight to the point of the business model disruption. I think traditionally most of our businesses are linear supply chains and linear value creation, where you know, somebody builds something and sells it to somebody, somebody else adds value and sells it, and so on. Today what's happening is more of a shared economy. And I'm not so sure, I don't know, you can comment on this, I'm not so sure that we have figured out the, you know, how to generate economic profits for everybody from a shared model, right? So let me take an example. So if you have a ride-sharing app like Uber, and you have a great customer experience at the end of the day by using that service, where will you put that value to? Is it for the app? Is it for the courtesy of the driver? Is it for the cleanliness of the car? Is it for the, you know, efficiency of the navigation? Partnership models beyond our usual alliances, right? Where today we need a software product, we might go to Microsoft and you know, they would partner with us, to a model where we are all going together to the client with equal purpose, right? And the client is buying from all of us as one experience. And now when you make a profit on that deal, how do you distribute that profit, right? Is, I don't think, a mature model today. I mean, that's my view, and you know,
yeah,
you can
I absolutely agree. I think, you know, from the share riding, especially the one example that you spoke about, I think many people quote it as a shared economy. Yeah, it's shared economy from a consumer perspective, but at the end of the day, the actual, it's an established company. I mean, it's an aggregator business model. So all the money goes to one particular aggregator. So from that perspective, it is still the same model, but actually the provisioning is what the innovation is, and the customer pays for the convenience, right? I mean, that's the value proposition that Uber and Ola actually rides on. From a innovation perspective, I think one of the key questions is that from a collaboration with other partners is that one simple metric could be that how much amount of risk and reward is being shared.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the defining metric in terms of when we are exploring new businesses, when we are taking some new risks, how much of the risk that is being shared. I mean, if the risk is shared and the effort is shared, obviously the rewards will also be shared. So can we come out of the innovative model? I think that's going to define.
And in fact, I think the opportunities there is more from the transparency, because you're talking about trust now, right? So if I say that we go together, and if I screw up, then we all suffer, right? And you have to trust me for that. And that trust can only be built through transparency, which means more data analytics. Right? I mean, look at Uber, how they're collecting the data on driver satisfaction, right? So use the data as a basis of our trust. I think that's probably the way out. We are running short of time. So maybe last comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
just adding to what Hari said, I think in terms of the new business models, I think what I see for India IT companies, be it a large company or a small company, the access we have, which we have been accumulating over the years, is tremendous actually.
Absolutely.
And I think the innovation is also happening as more in pointed solutions actually. I think we have also a lot of domain understanding, like companies like Infosys or Wipro, they touch airlines industry on one side, on another side like power. So you have a lot of, domain understanding. So I think the new business model we should look upon where we have strength is building platforms, bring a lot of pointed solutions and put together this data, and that's where we have a lot of value actually. And I think, that's where I see a lot of value for the new business actually.
absolutely.
Absolutely. So
Anyway, thank you. On that note, we'll give up the stage, and hopefully we'll continue the discussion during the day.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think it was a very engaging discussion. I'm glad that we are discussing about the perception and reality and not really the hype. So which is really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepak and Subramaniam, for that very insightful beginning. Our next session will highlight scenarios where data lead decision-making enables true digital transformation. And for this, I would like to call upon Preeti Krishnamurthy and Sanket Dhurandhar from Microsoft.
A very good morning. It's a real honor to be here in front of all of you. So I'm Preeti from Microsoft, and I represent the IoT and advanced analytics side of business for Microsoft, and I have Sanket with me, who's also part of the same business. We'll take about 15 minutes, and I'm really happy that I'm talking right after the conversation that just happened between all of you, right? Because what we tried to cover here, if we could put up the slides if you don't mind, is around how there are different sources of data and how by just tapping into that data, there'll be a lot of insightful actions and potentially new business models that will come out of it, right? Just to start talking about it, we all know of how the whole industrial revolutions started off. Okay, this is not working. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, while we pull that up, let me just talk through it. To begin with, the very first revolution that we all came about was how steam engines, or just the commercial availability of steam to trains, and hence the potential industrial revolution started, which was the first revolution that we all know of. And slowly moving from there was availability of electricity and power, and then the mass production came in. And then the third, which most of us here were a part of, was all the digital revolution, and the fact that we had computers and internet coming into our lives. And now what we are facing today in the market is the whole data revolution that many of you touched upon. I'm just going to give one last try to this deck. Just give me a minute.
What you are reading right now?
talking about. And what I wanted to lead into was, it's not new that we all have this data that we are getting, right? We always, all of you had data about who were your resources, what were their technical skills, what's happening in the market in terms of projects which are coming up, what's the bid rates, everything was always there. But what's new and now here is the fact that all of this data can now be kind of actioned upon in a fairly economical way thanks to the cloud. And that's the only change that I would talk about, be it we talk about advanced analytics or even the IoT. The only difference is today we can access this data and make sense out of this data in a fairly economical way so that it's contributing to us, which means it could either give you a better efficiency or help you reduce your cost. And all of that is some way the fact that what you want to achieve through your digital transformations as well, right? I wanted to call this out because there are multiple numbers that are floating, but the one thing that I would like to call out, especially to the group that's present here, is the fact that it's called out that at least 10% of the organizations will be able to have a very profitable, successful business unit by just commercializing the data that they have. And that's what we're going to talk about in the coming slides as well, right? This is what is the evolution that's happening today. We were all fairly happy looking at static reports and have people interpret that report and take actions out of it. And we gradually moved to the fact that instead of just understanding retrospectively what happened, can I also kind of put a little knowledge to it and say, why did this happen? And that was the trend where you had these interactive reports coming in, right? You would have seen multiple presentations from Microsoft talking about a Power BI where you click on one chart and 5 other charts instantaneously changed. And that was the interactive dashboards that we were talking about. But currently where we are today is somewhere between the third and the fourth layer, right? We really want to know whether it might happen or not. You want to predict to a certain level of accuracy. And you do not want to stop with that to eventually move on to say like what was discussed in the previous session is recommendation. Tell me what I should be doing. Is there a trend that I'm seeing? Say all of us have data about different, we all spoke about people in the previous session, right? Now you know what are the skill sets that's available in the people. That's like a public information that you could pull from any job portals or aggregators which are present there, be it a LinkedIn or Monster Jobs or any of those sites. You are able to get the data where you're seeing what is the resource skill set that's available for you. Based on your own internal data, you will be able to know what are the general bids and projects that are coming up for you. Are you able to match these two and then be able to suggest, say, probably I should have the skill training happening this quarter because 2 quarters down the line, this could be the next project that's coming up in like this geography or this region or this industry. And that is what we're talking about when we're saying moving from predictions to recommendation. And I'd like to just talk about 2 more things before I hand it over to Sanket to kind of make this whole conversation real. Is there are 2 ways we'd like to talk to you about the power of data. One is how can it impact your own organization, and 2 is how can it impact how you interact with your end customers. So I'll play a video first to talk about how it can impact how you interact with your next customers.
You're a bank. No, you're a trader. Generating over 100 million trades per day, processing 200,000 transactions per second. Where a second could cost or make you millions. Or maybe you're a specialist hospital, providing the most efficient care possible, using technology to prevent an onset and offering vital information fast, predicting the health of your patients before they know it. No, you're a fast food cafe, able to take real-time action on the choice of your pizza variety, able to foresee what is selling well and act on it, run a promotional window and know whether to order less or more by the next. Or maybe you're a research institute, forecasting floods before the rain starts to fall, predicting a threat before it impacts lives. Wait, you're a steel plant, monitoring the safety of over 25,000 employees, controlling access, regulating process, following policies. The power of data is transforming the world. When used to its potential, it holds the promise to solve our toughest problems, to disrupt the competitive landscape and create new business opportunities. That's why an end-to-end data platform can provide you with the best insights to take the right decisions. For the complete solution, Microsoft Data Platform.
I'm just going to show this slide for a minute just because the effort that went into building this. And then I'll hand it over to Sanket for the demo. All that we wanted to talk about is whether it's your on-premise solution, which is right from storing data to doing analytics on the data to visualization on the data. And the same thing on the cloud, which is right from intelligent actions to cognitive services to visualization again. And when we spoke about interacting with your customers and being able to show them the same reports and data that you have access to, we have all of the technologies available in Microsoft today. And to show solutions which are built on top of this, I'm going to invite Sanket. As spoken, we'll show you two demos here. One is talking to the people point that all of you spoke about, right from hiring to retention, how can data help you get that whole chain more robust today. And the second is about how you interact with customers and make that experience a lot more interesting. Over to you, Sanket.
Yeah, thanks, Preeti. So morning, everybody. I'm Sanket. I am part of the team called Global Black Belts, and I handle advanced analytics as a workload for the India region. And that's what Preeti said. Today, I'm going to make the innovation talk more relevant, right? Because everybody talks about innovation, but there are steps to it. And when we talk of innovation, it's not that always the data resides in your domain. It could be in your domain as well as there is large amount of data which is existing somewhere, which could be a public domain, it could be your customers, or it could be a regulator, right? So how do you make all of them talk to each other, right? So I want to quickly start with a demo. So till time I get my demo on the screen, what is the most relevant topic these days? Any guesses? There you are, right? So I'm sure demonetization has impacted each and every business, right? ITES, banks, everywhere, right? And most of the time, that data or the way demonetization is happening, the information about that is not always there in your domain, right? So let me start with the demo, which talks about how do you get that data into your domain and how do you integrate that into your existing workflow, right? And the technology what I'm going to use today is what we call chatbots. Chatbots is the framework what Microsoft has released, and how you can make the data which is not residing in your domain talk to your internal system and take value out of it. That's what I'm going to showcase. So what we have done out here is that we have this Q&A maker. Now this Q&A maker is such a simple tool that you can on the fly create chatbots on your own. Okay, it's a Microsoft technology. It's entirely GUI driven. Okay, you don't need to code it. Everything is there on click of a button. So even if the business functions want to get hold of any such chatbots which you want to percolate internally to your folks, you can go ahead and do that as well. So I'll just quickly open So the data what I'm going to use today is this. This is a public website of Reserve Bank of India. Now, as I said, there is a lot of information which Reserve Bank, if you see, there are so many updates going on these pages, okay? Because as the way things are progressing, RBI is also getting hold of new information and they want to decimate that information. So just in case your finance function wants to make sure that your employees or your customers are getting the latest information, but at the same time, you want to make sure that that information is flowing through your systems, right? Whatever system or the interface what you have created for them, if you want to make sure that that information goes through you so that you know how that information has been utilized, that's what this particular chatbot will help you. So this public URL, I'm just getting hold of this URL and using it in this chatbot. As I said, it is zero coding interface, 100% GUI. I've just used the URL, copy pasted in the option 2. If I now hit on the extract button, so now what this service is doing is that it is going across the domain, crawling the public website, and getting the information what was available on the RBI's website side. Okay. So now if you see, it has got hold of 38 questions plus the answers relevant to that. So I pinged the FAQ page of RBI, and it already had questions and answers to it, right? Now if I have to see how that is performing, I just get to the next option. So I have my bot ready, okay. Now this bot could be your Skype for business, it could be your Facebook Messenger, it could be any kind of a messenger system or any kind of communication system which you already have in your environment, okay. What we are essentially giving from a chatbot framework is just a mechanism, how do you make that particular piece of technology what you already have relevant to your customers through a chatbot framework, right. So let me try with few of the questions, okay. So the common question, where can I exchange your notes, okay. So if I just get into the bot and type that. Now if you see, on the fly, I have created a bot. All the questions are now in my domain. I have asked for the questions, like where I can exchange your notes. Now the bot has its own intelligence through which it has understood, okay, looking at this question, I feel this to be the right answer. So the exchange facility is available at all issue offices of RBI, okay. This is what bot has felt the right answer. Just in case if you feel this is not the right answer, bot also gives you option, right. So you can play around with this, and there is an option to retrain. So just in case if you feel the answer was not relevant, because we are still in a development phase, right? And if you feel the answer is not relevant, you can go ahead and retrain the bot on the fly, on the interface itself. Either you look at the options what the bot felt are more relevant, or if not, you can go ahead and type in your own options, and the bot will be trained according to that, okay? So now what we have done is that from a URL, okay? But then some information could be in PDFs, because you're already using that kind of a scenario, okay? So not only URL, but you can directly upload the PDFs and any other information which is there in your domain, okay? So the classical use case, what we are exploring, and already few organizations have started using that, is for the IT returns. The season is coming, right? From Jan, we will have those seasons of IT return. And so many times, monotonous questions the finance department gets, right? I have sir smiling, he can relate, yeah. So what is the last date, right? How do I feel, what should be the most relevant for this particular column, right? So all those monotonous questions can be fed into the bot, and as I said, it gets integrated with your organization messenger system. So if it is Skype for messenger, I mean Skype for business, this could be just an extra bot in the existing ecosystem, and all those queries related to finance can be handled through this. Another options what we are exploring is the HR workflow. What is my leave balance, or what is the policy for LTA, right? All those questions are very much predictable. That can be generated through this itself. IT infra, my laptop is 4 GB, I want 8 GB, okay? All those things, I can have a separate bot for IT infra, and it gets again diverted to the same interface. So if you see, what we are trying to do is that interface from a customer perspective remains the same, okay? But we are enhancing new experience to the interface which they already know. So that way the resistance part of it will be very, very less. They are comfortable using the ecosystem, and now we are just making that ecosystem much more relevant or much more intelligent. Other than this thing, I just want to now show you one actual customer use case. This is again a public use case, Cathay Pacific. My counterparts in Hong Kong, they have implemented this on the chatbot framework what I showed. The baggage claim system or the workflow for Cathay works on the same platform what I showed right now. So let me just demo you that as well. So they're asking me, So typically when I say hi, right, it will want to know, since it's a baggage claim system, it will want to know where I'm flying to and what kind of information I want to get hold of, right? So if I just type in it was open for a while, so it has gone. Let me just refresh it. Yeah. So typically, this is what I call a demo syndrome. My laptop has understood I'm demoing to a crowd, and that's the way it is. Yeah. So typically, what I wanted to show out here is that the workflow which was earlier handled by the call center agent, same workflow now it is been integrated with the chatbot, and the omni-channel experience, which is paramount importance when you're talking to customers, right? That can be directly be flown through your existing system. So if at all I'm not happy with this chat and saying, okay, still I want to talk to agent, this exact history can be integrated with the CRM system, and the call center agent already knows that, okay, this fellow has tried to get this information and he was not able to get hold of that, and he can just carry forward from that. So with this, I want to get on to the next part of the demo. Frankly, I was not intending to show this, but then the kind of discussion which we had in the earlier discussion round, right? I thought it makes more sense to showcase that. So we are working with a partner called Zing HR here in India, and we have built an intelligent resume scanner based on the Azure machine learning platform. So essentially what we are trying to do is that from an HR perspective, if you see, typically 60% of the time they invest on eyeballing each and every resume, right? That's their work. They have to go through each and every word, each and every sentence of the resume. But then that again becomes too monotonous, right? So if you want to make that system intelligent, so this is the system. This is the application of Zing HR, okay? So you can go ahead, make the requisitions for the new JDs or the new headcounts what you have in the system. When you're making the requisition, it will ask you for all kind of information which otherwise also you're right now also filling, right? The hiring manager would always obviously know all of this. And then it also asks for the job description. Now what the system does, or where the machine learning comes into picture, is that we try to analyze the job description with the resumes, and every job description typically comes with keywords. Okay, so if I'm hiring for an analytical guy, the description would say person must have done regression, or he must have handled anomaly problems before. If I'm hiring for a financial guy, then relevant keywords are already there. It's just about marrying the job description with the resume, and while I'm doing that, I'm also relying on the fact that similar kind of persona are already there in my domain. That means I already know if the resume has this characteristics, then it makes more sense in my scheme of things. So what we can do is that, I'll just quickly get to the next page of it. So if you see, what we have done here is, now we have analyzed the resume on machine learning, and the best way to analyze any kind of a literature is a word cloud. Okay, so now instead of going through each and every line of the resume, my HR friends gets this word cloud, and he understands whether those relevant keywords, in case of analytics what I quoted, regression or maybe anomaly, whether they are part of the resume. If they are part of the resume, are they also part of the JD? Okay, so what is the match between the JD and the resume, as well as the algorithm works to suggest whether it's an apt or inapt. Okay, now there is always a human factor in between, right? So if in case the machine learning model set this as an apt, and if you feel it is inapt, the moment you hit inapt, the model again retrains itself, so that next time when you find similar kind of circumstances, he know, okay, this because of this it was inapt, so let me now say this as an inapt. Okay, so that continuous learning of the ecosystem happens on this, right? And this is how we can not only predict the employability of the person whom you are trying to get into your organization, at the same time, I can also predict how long that fellow will be with me. More than that, whether he will join, yes or no. Okay. Along with it, what we are trying to do is that we are integrating this platform with LinkedIn also. Now, I can say all kind of good things about me on Facebook, but LinkedIn is a place where I'll always put the truth, right? I'm supposed to earn money out of that because I will be looking out for good jobs through LinkedIn. So the idea is that when you talk of a social thing, Facebook might give you a wrong intention or a wrong perception about the person, but LinkedIn will always give you a correct perception, right? So this entire system now we are linking with LinkedIn, and we are going to crawl. We are already crawling it. It's already there in pre-prod stages, where we are crawling the LinkedIn profile and trying to understand how long a person stays with a company. If he is currently in Mumbai and you are offering him Bangalore, what is the relevance for him? Is he always a location hopper kind of thing, or he's always been in Mumbai and suddenly now you are offering in Bangalore? So what is the percentage of him joining you? Okay. So these are all the new parameters. The combination of JD plus resume and a LinkedIn profile are going to throw in front of you. And this way the HR recruitment process will be a lot more easier. And we are already doing this for one of the big telecom companies in Gurgaon. Second largest private sector bank uses this. Fourth largest private sector bank is using this. Okay, so this system is already there on ground running, and that's how the entire machine learning and the analytics piece is going to help you. So, any questions on this, or I mean, I would like to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
For internal staffing also, right? If you're moving around people also.
Okay.
Right. How much time does it save? Let's say Wipro or Infosys takes 15 days to find it could be not an external recruitment, it could be internal deployment, right? From project to project. I think this could be used, right?
Absolutely.
So my question is, like, let's say if it takes 15 days by eyeballing the resumes and everything, right? And with this, because since you deployed with 3-4 clients, how much you are able to save time actually?
So all of this happens in a jiffy. This particular thing happens in a jiffy.
Correct.
Okay.
Provided that you have the data.
Provided, see, LinkedIn is a public profile, and these days, the kind of industry what we interact with, I find it difficult to say that no one would have a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, but LinkedIn probably gives a very macro level data. But let's say, I'm in Infosys or Wipro.
Yeah.
I want to move resource from one project to another project. I would like to know more about the details of the project they have done. So unless you connect to the details of the project system, you won't be able to accurately predict.
Got you. Okay. So this system is has integration with not only the Naukris and the Monsters.com, but also the internal system, which could be a Talio.
Correct.
Okay. So that integration is already there, so that we can crawl the data which is already there. So the whole idea of this is that we want to make you more productive. So if I ask you again input the data externally, then the whole this thing goes for a toss, right? So this has already connectors available, which can just go and talk to any of your existing system, and we can get information out of that. On that point, what we are also going to integrate a module, what I'm working with the Zing HR team is that when you are doing an internal movement, okay, now a lot of time if I am at a junior level and I see somebody whom I aspire to be, right? So the model what we are going to integrate in this is that will tell me what path I should be taking, and if I have to reach that path, then what is the gap and what are the learning opportunities I need to explore. And now this system will talk to your L&D system and tell you, okay, looking at your system and looking at your aspiration 5 years down the line, this is the gap in terms of the skill set which you are having right now, and these are the courses which will help you bridge that gap and help you reach to your aspiration.
Okay.
Okay, so that end-to-end ecosystem is something what we are trying to build. Moreover, this also comes with a mobile app.
Okay.
Okay, so the entire web apps thing is integrated with mobile, and it can be run through your any of the devices as well.
Can I just add one point
Sure.
to exact your question? I don't think either of us will be able to give you a days or hours saving. I completely get where you're coming from, which is why I'm saying we do not know that to share that. but just logically, if you think of the flow, the inputs that goes into this are the resume and the job descriptions. So the actual time saving is if I have, say, 10 resumes to look at as an HR, and I spend, say, 5 minutes per resume to understand what are the key skill sets, that 5 minutes will probably reduce to a minute here because the workload is automatically put in. It'll be more, yeah, it'll be more tuned to that organization and the way they do the HR shortlisting. So I don't have a thumb rule number to share in terms of savings.
And another thing of any machine learning or analytical platform is that over the time it matures. Okay, so if in the month 1, if you find the saving of 20%, by month 6 it will come up to 60%. Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
You really understand that person. For a fresher, it's different. But if you're somebody who's experienced 10 years, you move from project A to project B. I think you need to collect a lot of internal details, what kind of project they worked on. Then I think it matures a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think we'll call it an end to our session. We'll hand it over, and I think she'll officially announce what the next session is about. But in a nutshell, what we wanted to cover was there is data available across different systems, different parts of your organization. How do we just collate all of that and make insights out of it and potentially actions on your business model is what we wanted to give you a little flavor about. Would love to talk to you. We'll be available over lunch where we could discuss a little more in detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti and Sanket. Before we move on to our next session, request you all to kindly fill in the feedback forms distributed around. As we all know how important it is to keep your customers happy. So our next session, Delighting Your End Customer, will tell you how technology will help you keep your customers happy. For this, Jatinder Singh from Microsoft will lead you on.
I am Jatinder Singh Pabla. Yeah, Indians have taken care of that, our parents. Okay, it's a different matter that both of us are smart, so very difficult to distinguish. Okay, so I am Jatinder Singh Pabla, and I take care of Office and Office 365 business. Now, in all this digital transformation context and discussions, debate, I think all of us at the base are worried about how do we increase lifetime value of our customer, from our customer, and that's what we are also worried about. How do we drive efficiency internally within employees, and how do we still be compliant? I think these are the three things which every day, and we are as big a professional services organization as you are, and these are the three things which keeps us always awake. How do we get more, both from giving value as well as from taking value from our customers? How do we increase the employee efficiency internally, and how do we always be compliant, because that is also a very, very critical part of the entire story. So let's take a couple of examples, and these are a couple of ideas, if you like an idea, do please write it on that feedback form, and we will come back to you and have a detailed discussion, because this discussion is only about 15 to 20 minutes. So there are a couple of things which we can do probably if we want to increase the lifetime value from our customers. One, we need to exactly know what is the customer behavior, both in terms of their sentiment as well as in terms of opportunity. And then we need to innovate with new services, right? We need to keep on launching new services so that whenever there is a gap, because whenever there is a transformation, whenever there is a transition, there is always a revenue gap. A revenue gap will always come, and unless that is filled in with new services, innovative services, there would be a valley. So it is actually on all of us to keep on generating those new services so that that gap reduces and that valley is smoothened out. And there are lots of new services which we can launch, right? And new and innovative services which can help us differentiate our services from competitors. And let's talk about a couple of those services. I think the first one, which is catching fire these days, is natural user interface or bots. And this can be used across the industry, anywhere you want. It can be used in banking, it can be used in food retail, it can be used to order a Domino's pizza, it can be used to open up an account for a credit card application, it can be used internally to provide support. Okay, but at a base level, the technology has to have three things. One, it should be easy to implement, it should be intelligent, it should keep on learning, and it should be integrated with humans, right? Because there would be times when bots fail, and that is the time when humans will have to take over. I'm just giving an example of a banking industry. It can be replicated to any industry you want, but basically what this example shows is that how bots can help interact with customers when there is a trigger. Okay, so for example, there was an overdraft in your account, how the bank will reach out to you through a bot. That was the first example. Second example is you are applying for a credit card to your bank, and then the bot says that I cannot solve your problem, but I have got 50% of the information. Let me transfer this 50% of the information to a human, and he or she will solve that problem. So that is basically a human-machine integration. And third part is about transactions, right? When you want to transact, you want to pass on some money to another account payee, how bots can make it simpler. Can be applied to anywhere. The bot framework is ready, just to probably open up the ideas. It's a very small video, 1 minute video, to have a look at this. Just 1 second. So this is the trigger part. Getting an overdraft trigger. Everything will work from within the bank application. The bots get integrated there. You are just typing in natural user interface. And it is just checking that, are you a real person? It says that no, I am a bot. Second is credit card application, where lots of information was put in, but bots raised its hand saying that I cannot solve your problem, but let me pass on your information to a backend person. The backend person does the remaining part, passes it back to bot, and the problem gets solved. And this is the interaction, human-machine interaction. And then the third part, where you can do normal transactions using bots. It's like a money transfer transaction. Now, this example can be used anywhere. You can use it for ordering pizza, you can use it for your internal support, you can use it for creating new services for your clients, right? You can use it anywhere you want, and pretty much this is something which everyone is talking about, limitless possibilities. I'm not getting into details of this. So that is one way we can generate new service. The second is something which we discussed in the last session also, zero distance kind of a service. And lots of customers have started doing it, right? Some customers have started using it as a differentiated services and asking for extra money or extra amount from their customers. And some have used it to create more value, differentiating it from their customers. But essentially what they do is that you have your customers and you have your project team internally. You are integrating them together. And what are you doing? You are bringing them together so that they can chat, audio, video, almost on a real time as required. Your customers can have almost a real time view of how the process is going on, like through reporting, right? And of course, there are lots of other things which you can do. You can do co-authoring. If there is one document which your customer and client, which your customer and your internal team is working on at the same time, they can work on that document simultaneously. So basically what you are doing is that you are creating a zero distance platform for your clients, and you are using it as a new service by which either you can get additional revenue or you can get a differentiated service. And various IT and ITES organizations have started using this. That's another thing which is catching fire these days. The third is organization analytics. We will talk about this in the next slide, and it can be, all these services can be applied internally or as a go-to-market. Organization analytics is all about, can you go to your customer or internally and say that, I will increase the percentage of your top performers by 10%, or I will reduce the attrition in your organization, good attrition in your organization, sorry, bad attrition in your organization by, let's say, 5 or 10%. I will help you devise a channel sales strategy for your organization. Could be anything, and we'll talk about it. So these are new services where customers have started appreciating, right? For example, lots of customers say that my sales team must have 5 customer calls in a day. Can you go to your customer and say that I can help you measure, and I can help you relate that back to your sales, that if, are they having 5 calls a day? If having 5 calls a day translates to them being a top performer. So all those kinds of things are actually again catching fire. Cybersecurity and auditing analysis, we'll talk about a couple of them. Again, very top service, and omni-channel collaboration. We again talk about that. Couple of new services which probably can be thought through, both internally as well as with your customer. So that was about new services. But understanding the customer behavior is also equally important, both from an opportunity perspective as well as from a sentiment analysis perspective. Again, this can be used internally, or you can launch it as a service to your customers. Let me just show you a couple of screens. Okay. So this is a sentiment analysis app available to you. Sorry. Okay. So this is a sentiment analysis app, okay, built on top of all the tools which we have. If you see this, what this does is that it allows you to find out what are people saying about your brand, product in the open market, or in the Twitter, for example, right? What are people tweeting about your product or brand? So which is this, outbound tweets. So basically, what is the outbound tweet which is going from your product and brand? What are people talking about when they are talking, when they are talking through the inbound tweets? So basically, all the tweets which are directed at you, and you can see all these things. What are the sentiment analysis? What are the top authors? You can do all these things. But what it also allows you to do is that how various products and brands are connected to each other. And this is something, this is a Microsoft research thing. The black dots are topics, and the blue dots are authors. Okay, so let's see, I wanted to see that what happened during this phase. Something happened, right? There were lots of activities in the market. So the moment I select it, it will filter it. I can drag and drop. So Power BI was my topic. Now it tells me that people were talking about Power BI during that time. These were the authors, and by the way, when they were talking about Power BI, these authors were talking about the other topics, data mining, data visualization, right? You can correlate this to anything. In a banking environment, it could be correlated between a card and insurance, right? In a retail environment, it can be coordinated between 2 different products. It could be anything. Any 2 different things, brands, products, which an organization have, either you or your customers, and when you want to relate them, when you want to connect the dot, that when people talk about a particular thing, how does it impact the same thing, how does it impact another product within your organization, or how your products are connected with each other, right? So that kind of thing you can do. Then what you can also do is that you can do entire negative sentiment analysis. These are live demos, so sometimes they take time. Okay, so if you see, these are all my negative tweets. Okay, and these were all the tweets which impacted me. If I just select here, it will tell me what impacted, why my brand got negative impact during that time. Okay, so I think so all those tweets will come here. The moment I click here, the tweets will start coming here. That at this point of time, people were talking negative about you, and these were the authors. It will come at the bottom of the screen, and these were the topics. So you can relate that if something bad happened out in the social world, what was the topic which impacted you, and who was the author which impacted you. And lastly, you can put all those calibration ratings, that what is it which is more important to you, whether it is number of tweets, sentiment, average number of users, and when you put all this weightage, it will tell you that these tweets, these authors were something which are of most importance to you. So basically, it allows you to do completely sentiment analysis in a social world. And this is again a platform which is available. You can use it internally, you can use it to create solutions for your customers. Another, opportunity analysis. Again, something which is readily available. As a professional services organizations, we, and of course you, would be worried about your pipeline. Okay, what is the pipeline by practice, what is the pipeline by stage, what is the pipeline by region, what is the pipeline by month and expected close date, all in real time. It can collect data from whichever source you have, whether it is an Excel file or SAP or Azure or AWS or Salesforce, doesn't matter. It will collect the data from everywhere. It will give you the view about what is your pipeline report, what is your quota attainment report, region-wise, leads-wise, month-wise, what is your sales performance report, how people are doing with respect to their target, and of course at the last, it will talk about what is the sales trend, what has been the YTD trend, what has been the YOY trends. So all these things are available, using which you can analyze your internal opportunities and define which are the areas where you want to target, and you can analyze what is happening out there in the market so that you can start connecting the dots, both internally as well as for your customers. Okay. So that was the first part. Let's talk about increasing the productivity and also finally increasing the lifetime value of your customers. Every employee in the organization has a very unique way of interacting and finding out information, right? Some people love to work on email, some people love to work on phone, some people love to work on chat, some people are comfortable on social, some people just want to go and search it out themselves on the portal. Everyone has a very unique way, right? So it is criminal to force people to say that, hey, if you want to be productive, you can be productive only on social platform and not on mail, not on anywhere else. So what is happening these days is that the platforms are being built by which we are able to leverage the uniqueness of each team, each individual, while the framework remains consistent. And what are those frameworks? Frameworks means the documents. So if someone stores a document at one place, it should be available through any channel. And if someone is a part of a group, it should again be consistent across all the channels, right? And then let people decide how they want to interact. If, for example, let me just show you, if this is my one-stop shop. Okay, when I come, I look at this one as my one-stop shop. It tells me what are all my required trainings, what all are the trending documents, what all are the trending videos, what are the trending pages. So this is my one-stop shop. Okay, the information from this is coming from multiple sources. If there is a video which people are comfortable with, and these days people are getting more comfortable with videos, all the trainings and everything is happening on video, but the problem is that you can't put all those videos on YouTube, right, because it becomes public property then, even if you restrict that channel. So this is the video channel which is there for you internally within your organization. It's again a streaming platform. So you put you create your channels and put your content, and it gets integrated with your Active Directory, which I'm sure most of you would be using. So I put my videos here, or I can consume my videos from here across any devices I have. If I want to create a group which constitutes of customers, partners, internal employees, I use an enterprise social, okay, which allows me to interact with them, share documents, comment, like, whatever I want. If I want to create a very small team, let's say some 50, 60 organization, a small team, I use another platform, which is a Teams platform. But the beauty here is that whichever document I store from wherever, whichever channel, it gets stored at one place at the back end. So if I store a document in a document repository through email, I can access the same document, or the same document will be available to me through Enterprise Social, through Teams, through videos, from wherever I go. So I'm letting the productivity or the uniqueness unleash on people, and I'm letting them decide whatever and however they want to work. Plus, what we are also doing is that this platform also brings the information back to the user in an automated way. Now, when people change their roles internally, okay, they struggle a lot in finding out the most relevant documents in their organization. When people join new in your organization, well, you assign peer mentors, but it is actually painful and embarrassing to keep on reaching out to those people to find out documents, right? It's very painful. And it's very difficult to find out what someone else in a different geography is doing, okay? And what this platform does is that this brings all that information to me on a platter. And this is my one-stop shop. I have not suggested to this platform, and I have never searched these documents. What it does is that it sees whom are the people, which are the people with whom I am interacting most. What are the topics which I search or edit most, right? So what are my interests? And it's an intelligent machine learning platform. What are my interests in terms of documents, in terms of people? And then it starts throwing all those documents to me. And as I keep on interacting with it, keep on interacting with the documents, it keeps on even fine-tuning it. So just look at this one. All these documents, Automotive Book of Dreams, BDM engagement. So you are all BDMs, which are business, like business decision makers, right? I have never even opened this document, but it said that you were searching about BDMs. This guy had worked on this document. And by the way, this is something which you should be looking at, BDM engagement scenarios. And some of these people are those with whom I have never even interacted, and I don't even know who they are. But this system knows that you are interested in these topics and you are interested in these people. I can tag people, or I can tag topics, or it will keep on learning. So the use cases are immense. New joinees, when they join, they will get to see what are the most important documents. When you change jobs, you'll get to see what are the most important documents. When you are in the job, you'll get to see what people in other organizations, or in other geographies are working, which are similar to your roles. So you can use it in whatever way you want, and you can also present it as a solution to your customers. Sure.
Multiple users modify the document?
Yes.
At the same time?
Yes, which is co-authoring through any device they have.
Okay, and they can also set permissions on, who does
Yes,
which section and things like that.
Yes, of course.
Example?
Most of the documents in organization are actually public, 99%.
Okay.
But the problem is that they are public but private, sitting somewhere. And that's why it was called My Documents. So this just completely changes My Document. It is everyone's documents now. There's no more My Documents.
Thank you.
Okay, so so we talked about creating that platform which enables people to be more efficient, which brings people together. But there is another important factor of that. How do you increase efficiency? How do you increase efficiency? By doing organizational analytics. Now, every organization hires best of the people in the world. But why do you have only, or why we have only 15 to 20% of the people who are top performers? When people leave organizations, right, the good attrition, which were actually the bad people, they will give all sort of feedbacks, which organization will rarely be interested in. But bad attrition, that means which were we are good people, when they leave, they don't give much feedback. They'll say everything was fine, I got a better opportunity, I'm leaving. Okay? How do you find out why people left? How do you find out what people were doing before they left in terms of characteristics? How do you find out what your top performers are doing? Okay? And all this information is lying within your system. Your calendar exactly knows with whom you meet. Your mail system knows whom you send mail. How do you interact? How fast are you interact? What is your response time? And if this information can be consolidated and brought back at the organization level, the use cases are immense. I can find out, it can integrate with your HR system and it can say, you have 10% top performance, and by the way, your 10% top performance, 10% top performers in these roles had these characteristics. Your sales guy, the people who were top performers in sales guy, had 5 customer meetings in a day. They spent 70% of their time externally. They spent 90% of their time outside of their immediate organization, and that's why they were top performers, just for an example. And by the way, the remaining 70% do not have these characteristics. So you should probably focus on developing these 2 or 3 characteristics so that they can go up. So the training programs, all the coaching can be more customized. Or when people leave, it can say that before these people left, they were isolated, they were siloed, they stopped sending mails, they stopped meeting customers. So you can course correct, you can extrapolate with the people you have, and you can say that, by the way, top performers not doing these things, there is some problem, let's coach them. You can use it internally, you can use it with your customers. Or you can say that, or you can define a policy saying that my sales rep must have at least 5 customer meetings in a day, just for an example. And if it's not in the calendar, that means there's some problem. It should be there in the calendar, right? And it can track it. And at the end of the month, week, whatever is your time period, you can say that, okay, while there is a policy, but this is the reality. And you can take all these course correction actions. This is something, again, which is catching fire. And the last topic is about, while we do all those things, we generate new services, we drive efficiency, but we still have to be compliant. One, there is lot of effort which we have taken to take that compliance burden or share that compliance burden from you. All the data centers which we have are compliant with US, EU, ISO standards. So it doesn't matter where your customers are located or where your data is located, they will be compliant to that. It has got people-centric compliance functionalities built in. And when I say people-centric compliance, your users should be warned before they make mistake rather than be penalized after they make mistake, right? Because by that time, things would have gone bad. And one of my customers lost 1/3 of its business because a user in one process by mistake sent customer information to a user in another process just to seek some help. And it was caught during auditing and it lost 1/3 of its business, ITES organization. So these technologies, which are people-centric technologies, which are like DLP, RMS, they warn people before they make mistakes. So if someone, you can customize it saying that these are the sensitive information in this process. If this person tries to send this sensitive information outside of this group, which is of course your Active Directory group somewhere, warn him, block it, raise the issue so that if someone is doing by mistake, it stops, or if someone is doing by design, again, it is blocked and caught. So that helps. That helps when you want to segregate your customers within your organization. And lastly, there are lots of machine learning or intelligence which is getting built into security. And this is something which internally or as well as your customers will appreciate, right? The first one is zero-day protection, where everyone has started talking about how do they protect their environment when there are no definition files against it. So there is a zero-day protection technology which is available now. And lastly, it's about advanced e-discovery. Now, are you into some sort of compliance or auditing business internally or with your customers? Otherwise, I'll just skip this one. Anyone who has the intent of providing security as a business to your customers or internally? No, I'll skip that one. But it's just that it reduces the cost of compliance and security and auditing by almost 75%. So if you ever wanted to launch a new business around cyber security and compliance, this is something which will help. Okay, so I'll skip all these things. Lastly, thank you. Thank you for coming. I think these are some ideas which we shared. There are lots of customers, including you, who have partnered with us in a couple of these ideas. And whichever ideas have interested you, please write it down and we will be happy to take it forward. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Jatinder. Would now like to call upon Mr. Debjyoti Paul, Head Digital Business for Mindtree, to talk about winning with personalization.
Good morning. Absolutely an honor to be with you here and speaking with you on digital transformation. I'm with Mindtree. We look at ourselves as a digital company, and you know, when I think about how ready are we to enable digital transformation for our customers, one, I'm starting on a light note. Please, bear with me. One quick check that I often do. I do a lot of events globally, and in most digital events, what I find is a fair percentage of customers and digital providers are normally in jeans. Today we find, including myself, we are all informals. Therefore, I'm not sure whether we are really imbibing our customers' DNA really in being ready for the digital transformation. Jatinder was an exception. Thanks, Jatinder, for breaking that clutter. You were in jeans. Getting on to serious business. There was so much that was discussed, right? And if you made a word cloud, you started with a word cloud at the start of all that was discussed. There was machine learning, chatbots, AI. That is what will show up over there. Now, as a technology consulting company, what do I do with all that? How do I really make sense of that and create real offerings that solve a customer's real problem? That is something that we are all struggling with. Customers don't know what to do with it. We are experimenting ourselves, and therefore what I'll do in the next few minutes is to try and bring some structure to what probably we need to do to succeed. Obviously, there will be many different interpretations, but at the same time, this is an attempt to at least highlight some of the important points. And I chose for this an instance around personalization. In digital, we are all used to Amazon, right? We are all used to Flipkart. When you show up on Amazon, you see stuff which is relevant for you. That is what has really set them apart from everybody else. What worries other providers, other retailers the most, and actually not only retailers, all kinds of businesses the most, is the fact that Amazon can tune its offering so much to a customer's own mind. And it is said that Amazon can order something for you even before you know you need it, right? So how do you get there? How do you therefore enable your customers to make that real for them? As I actually got up, I saw a message from Make My Trip telling me, offering some discounts on holidays in Rajasthan. Now, actually, somehow Make My Trip figured out, and it's been consistent the last few days. Somehow they have figured out that I am traveling to Jodhpur this afternoon. Now, that is, you could say it is personalized, but at the same time, it is out of context. I'm already traveling to Jodhpur. Why are you giving me messages for Rajasthan? Is that true personalization? Those questions will come up, and therefore, when you are thinking of crafting an offering, there are many different elements there. So somebody sold chatbots to you, somebody sold AI, machine learning, some platform. You go and cook something up, and you start throwing up, holidays for Rajasthan when the poor man is already traveling to Rajasthan, right? So how do you really get this right? So first, somebody said that there is so much data all around. And when Hari was talking of the cross-border flow of data, think about it. We work with a hotel brand, for example. We see them sitting on top of data from airlines. We see them sitting on top of data from all their hotel brands. They own many. We see them sitting on top of third-party data, which is masked. How do you then use all of that, first of all, to draw some intelligent picture of who Puneet is, or who Hari is, or who Jatinder is? You don't have exact, precise data. You have something suggesting that, yes, this might be this person. So first, you start by capturing all of this data. Second, you start interpreting that data using all that machine learning and artificial intelligence that we were speaking about. how do you create models that will start therefore segmenting you absolutely in very granular manner and then say, okay, this person seems to be such and such and these seem to be the digital footprint that pertain to him. How do you use therefore analytical models to make that happen? That's the second part. Third, think about it. Somebody in Make My Trip crafted an offer for somebody interested in traveling to Rajasthan. But in reality, my situation is a little different from somebody interested in traveling to Rajasthan. I am already traveling to Rajasthan. The brand manager actually has to think that I should craft something that will make this person spend in Rajasthan and therefore enrich my life or enrich my experience and so on and so forth. So the entire thought process is, how do I therefore think about every moment of truth? So I think the previous session was titled Delivering Customer Delight, and when you are thinking delivering customer delight and maximizing lifetime value, you are really thinking how to touch every interaction that you are having with the customer and making the most of that. Now when you think about that, it's not just about therefore using AI, it is actually integrating everything, the entire process and the entire value chain, and making it possible for the brand manager or the product manager or the sales manager to craft something for this moment. I am traveling to Rajasthan. Here is an opportunity to do something this evening in Jodhpur when you are there. Can I get something done with you? Now that is, I'm still talking just technology, and I'll come to the people aspect just a little later. So first we said there is this whole flood of data, can I make something out of it? So I need to capture, I need to think how to make sense out of it, how to interpret it. I need to use all of that analytics that we spoke about. Third, I'm saying I need to integrate the entire value chain and make something possible for the brand manager, which was not possible earlier. Earlier, if you just look back at your own experience, we are used to having that monthly offer from Citibank saying, for this month, if you used your Citibank card, you will get 20% off on ABCD restaurant. Now that is so old world. It was a monthly offer coming to you then. It's so out of context for you. Here we are saying, this guy is traveling here and this is the moment for him. Can I make something real for him? Right? So the entire mindset is changed. You need to really bring everything together and make it possible to deliver delightful experience at every touch point. The last being, how do you think about security? So when Jatinder was talking of security, you are as well thinking how not to be too in the face for the customer. So my wife, for example, underwent a surgery recently. I know there are many things that are relevant for her. But if a marketer actually showed up and said that, you know what, here is something great for you, she would wonder why her medical record actually suddenly is available in public. That data is actually available in public. There are many ways by which that data is available. Now, what to use, what not to use, and then once you used it, how do you protect it? So how do you have a code of honor around all of this data? So that brings us to the fourth dimension of actually making something real. So I spoke about four things. What really stands out? So where was I going with this? When I said how to really enable digital transformation, I took this instance. Now look at what are the elements that come out. First, we are talking completely customer-centered thought process. We were not thinking customer journey till a few years back as companies. Now our language has changed. When we talk to our customers, we talk customer journey first. If you are not doing customer journey conversations today, and if you are not mapping the customer's journey, I think that is the place to start. So you're really thinking, okay, what might be all the interactions that are happening? So Procter & Gamble, for example, what they do, and this is in public domain, therefore I'm sharing this. We are all used to, and all MBAs we have learned about, first moment of, second moment of truth and so on. P&G came up with 1.5 moment of truth after Google came up with 0 moment of truth. So there is ZMOT, there is FMOT, then there is 1.5 MOT. MOT standing for moment of truth. P&G is saying, actually when you ordered your stuff on Flipkart and the package landed at your doorstep, when you open it, that's also a moment of truth. You know, do you like the packaging? Do you like how it is presented? Is it damaged? Is it not? That is the 1.5 moment of truth. Now, when you really think about all interactions, Google took it one step further from there. They said all interactions comprise of micro moments, right? So how you map your customer journey is probably the defining part of whether you are really enabling yourselves to succeed with digital transformation. You really need to start with the customer journey. Second, if you see, we are talking data, we are talking front-end digital experiences, we are talking mobiles, we are talking chatbots. Now think about it, it really brings together so many different elements. There is a consultative element, you are defining the customer journey for the customer. You are defining now how you will deal with data. You are defining how intelligence will be built into the data. So it is a multidisciplinary problem. If you really are still structured in silos, somebody thinking data, somebody thinking cloud, somebody else thinking packaged applications and CRM, I think you're not ready for a digital journey with your customers. You have to have a way of bringing all of this together. How do you think, therefore, customer journey first and then bring it all together in a multidisciplinary manner? Somebody else spoke about agile, right? And during coffee, we were discussing that we all are doing such fast cycles. You know, earlier we were used to the 8-year SAP refresh cycle. Now, who thinks in that manner? Your customers are thinking 3 months, 6 months. How many are saying actually, this morning we were saying, somebody was saying that, look, our customers want POCs, proof of value, before they invest in anything. And that is the truth that we are all faced with. How do you therefore equip yourself to work in a truly agile manner, be ready to learn, experiment, and move forward, harvesting all of that? What it requires, therefore, one is that agility. The other is about having the platform culture in your mindset to think, I will think a Microsoft Azure stack, I will think a chatbot. I'm not speaking for Microsoft. It could well have been an Adobe. It could well have been a Salesforce, right? Think platform first, something that we have learned from our thought process. Will you build your own platforms? Of course you will in some parts. But the problem that I see is that by the time a services company builds its own monolithic platform, it is really embedded with, last world thinking. You have created a monolith. It is no longer a digital platform. So you really need to therefore think as to which platforms do you align with, and therefore make all of this agility happen for your customers, right? The last step, in my view, is the fact that you really have to think how to enable culture change with your customers. And this is so real. Let me go back to that Citibank offer example. A banker is used to thinking in monthly cycles. Have they trained their manpower, their brand managers, to think micro moments? Micro moments for a banker is still, often you'll find in India, a Citibank thinks they are a digital company because, why? Because their digital customer acquisition is a very high percentage, 40% or whatever is, digitally acquired customers. But still they are thinking once a month, 5 offers that come to you. Right? How do you change their mindset to think micro moments? The reality is that Citibank's competition is actually the fintech customers are doing that. So if you are really, aiming to get your big customers to adopt digital and embrace digital transformation, you really need to think about how you enable change in your customers' mindsets. So where I was going was this, that we really need to think how to change ourselves to embrace digital transformation. First thought for me was we need to think customer journey backwards. 2, we need to think multidisciplinary approaches to our work. 3rd, we need to think agility and that readiness to test and experiment, test and learn. 4th, we need to think platform first. Else, this is a very difficult world. You will keep hearing that entire, jungle from that word cloud screaming at you, and you won't know how to bring things together and make real agility happen. And last, you really need to think how to work with the customer to change the thought process, to transform that culture in the companies. And of course, it starts with ourselves probably. And maybe we need to put on jeans more often, right? For events like this. Thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Mr. Paul, for that insightful session. Now we all are moving on to the last session for the day, and that will be, further than that, we'll have our group discussion. So we brace up ourselves for that. Calling upon Jatinder Singh from Microsoft to talk about delighting your end customers.
Yeah, hi, good morning everyone. My name is Jatinder. I'm Jatinder Singh. So, my previous namesake, Jatinder Singh Pavla. He takes care of the productivity applications. And I'm part of Microsoft. I'm part of Dynamics Business Applications Group. So I will be talking about project services. How many of us here are actually involved in any shape and form in a project? It could be from delivery perspective, it could be from operations perspective, management perspective. Great, so we have a few people here, great. So I'll simply move on to a few industry research data points. So it totally talks about, this is a 2016 study. It's been done for over 250 organizations, 257 to be precise, by SPI. So SPI has more than 10,000 customers globally, and I'm sure few of you must be using their services. So you would be finding this relevant. So the research says that 89% of the organizations who have collaborative and portfolio excellence systems and measures in place, 89% of them, their projects are delivered on time. This is last year's projects only. Their per employee revenue ratio is 57% higher than the bottom quadrant. And their bid to win rate is 67% higher than their peers in the bottom quadrant of collaborative and performance excellence, portfolio excellence. Now, they have further divided it into 5 different buckets. So level 1 to level 5. Now, here's the interesting part. So collaborative excellence is achieved so far till last year, as per them, by 5% of the organizations who are into project delivery services or project-based services for their end customers. And these organizations are able to get 36% profits as compared to 2.1 average profit or the bottom line from their peers in the bottom quadrant. So this directly takes me, what is it that process maturity, or why are we talking so much about collaboration maturity? We all have collaboration tools. We have Skype, Yammer, WebEx, a lot of stuff, right? We talk to each other. We have messengers, we have WhatsApp. If nothing else works, we generally create WhatsApp group and start communicating. So key ingredients here would be how to deepen engagement with your customers, with your vendors, and with your employees. So all 3 facets of it. Then how we empower our professionals, the people who are bringing in business, who are facing the customer, how they stay relevant to the customer's requirement, how do we empower the people who are delivering the business, delivering the projects, how are they able to leverage the resources or the experience they have from the similar projects which has been delivered earlier, how do they learn from their wins and their mistakes, and how do we optimize growth. To optimize growth, how well the organization is equipped to tailor its processes, how much agility is there to take new decisions, to cater to the changing business demands. It's always changing. With response to the requirement of the customers, with response to the requirement of the, the scenarios that competition is creating and the ecosystem is always evolving. How quickly we do change, and that what ensures how much we optimize this growth. So deepen engagement is primarily building credibility, providing near accurate estimates. Accuracy is a term which is abused by the industry. So how near accurate estimates can we provide to the customer? How realistic expectations can be set with the customer decides the credibility of a project-based services organization in front of a customer. How do we instill confidence of customer in a project once we have won this project? By providing them a two-way communication channel to regularly interact with the project teams, getting feedback from your people, getting feedback from the customer, and providing a seamless tool or a system or an environment where customers can share their feedback at any levels at any given point of time. Most of us may have experienced that during the project, a lot of times there are change management requests. Customers' priorities changes, ecosystem changes. They are hit by some urgent issues, or there could be some a very high value opportunity. They might be liking to tailor their products or the project they are doing to align with their new business objectives or the priorities. So, and then delivering predictable, profitable, on-time projects. How do we enable this? And there's another research quote here. 94% of the world-class organizations collaborates across all departments. These are from those 5% top of the line organizations here. So this is about how we empower professionals, how we facilitate transparency to the resources who are available within the organizations. How do we provide them information about what are the upcoming projects, what are the upcoming requirements, where they can be eligible, which are in line with their career aspirations, as well as the skills and experiences they have within the organization. How do we enhance productivity? How do we empower them to use their skills, to use their intelligence to contribute to the projects? And loyalty. So if we are able to provide them transparent information, if we are able to provide them opportunity to grow within the organization, loyalty will get impacted, and it definitely brings in positive loyalty. Your iteration goes down, and it is stated already by multiple research organizations. So I'll quickly move on to next one. Now there's how well we can optimize growth. The profitability comes from reducing the unnecessary tasks, the repetitive tasks. If you can automate those processes which are repetitive in nature, if you can get the best people and collaborate closely with the customer, identify the blockers, and get the project on time within budget, that ensures the profitability. And how adaptable those processes are, how well you can put in 50 things. These are the processes I want all my consultants or project managers or sales guys to adhere to. But how do you make sure that these are easy to adopt? How do we ensure that these guys are adhering to these processes? Will decide, the adaptability of all the things, all the vision that you are creating, whether that vision is actually translating into action. And scalability, of course. So how scalable your business is, your processes is. Can it cope up with the growth? Are you provisioning it for your today's requirement, or can it live up to your expectation after 5 years? So these are primarily the ingredients. I will simply jump into the project services. So now, this is the primarily life cycle, or this is the process flow for a project, right from identifying a new opportunity to the customer billing, and then doing the postmortem. How much we made out of it, how much we lost out of it, how well we can replicate it. Basically analytics and all the designs, data designs that are there. Can we replicate it? Can we use it in other projects? So project services, generally we have seen most of us here in my discussions with the customers from project-based services organizations, we have at least anywhere between 4 to 6 different tools, different systems who are working here. So we have a CRM or some kind of sales automation tool working for your salespeople, where they're punching in opportunities, they are identifying new customers, and they are getting the timelines, which gives you your forecast. And then there's a project planning tool, which is totally a different tool, being used by project managers or your delivery teams or your estimation teams. Then there is another tool somewhere, which is a team collaboration tool, which do not talks to these tools. And similarly, different tools at different levels. So what we are looking at here is, what if we can provide a single seamless system environment to all the stakeholders? So there are multiple stakeholders, from finance, from operations, from delivery, from consulting, the people who themselves are consultant and going to deliver the project in front of the customer, the sales teams, the sales managers, your operations teams who are looking at the forecast, funnels, planning capacity, planning budgets, all of those. What if we can bring all of these stakeholders on a single platform, right from the moment somebody identifies an opportunity for a consulting projects, we are able to provide an estimate based on your previous agile templates, how much will be the resource requirements, what kind of different resources are required, whether those resources are available, whether do we need to outsource them, at what point of time are these resources available. And we allow them to collaborate with each other and set the realistic expectation with the customer while focusing on profitability. We do not underestimate or overestimate certain scope of work or certain work breakdown structures that it leads into a pitfall, which we have overlooked in the beginning. So that will happen once we have a seamless tool. And how do we do this? So this is primarily talking about the customer journey from customer, employee, and organization perspective. I'll just skip this one. So yeah, so this is basically an account manager. I'll just do a 5-minute. I'll take 4 to 5 minutes to describe this scenario. This is an account manager for a project-based organization. It's an IT company who does design and development work for microchips for all the leading vendors. So this account manager looks at his funnel, he identifies that this particular customer has the largest opportunity or the biggest relationship with them, looking at his dashboard. So this is basically a sales automation tool, it's CRM. What he does is he meets with the customer, he puts more emphasis, he identifies another opportunity for 4 consultants within that customer. There are 4 different groups of technology which are required to deliver this project. Customer asks him, what is the estimate if I have to deliver this? Now this salesperson need to fall back upon a project or a delivery team guy who can give him an estimate of what will it look like, what is the time frame, what is the kind of billing we are looking at, what is the kind of opportunity we have here, and give an estimate to the customer. So this project manager uses the previous agile templates they have used in similar projects and gives an estimate on the time along with the budget and timeline and the resources requirement. The next thing is, once the project is already signed, quotation is accepted, it undergoes multiple deliberations, multiple discussions. Now a resource manager has to make sure whatever we have showed to the customer, whatever we have committed to the customer, whether those resources are available. So what he does is quickly he goes to the tool, identifies which are the resources. This is all the list of resources. System is smart enough to pick up the relevant resources from the resource catalog and highlight here with the calendar that till from which date to which date this resource is already engaged in another project and he is likely to be free from this and this date. He can identify the people which are available and most relevant for that project from that timeline and coordinates back with the project manager. Then they quickly identify the team members, shortlist these 4 team members, and then the end customer interviews happen, the project starts off. These people have all the access to look at all the open projects from timelines, from requirement perspective. System is intelligent enough, it picks up all their historical data and can highlight whether this project is how much relevant to his skills, his experience, his education. And finally, it moves to time and expenses, project starts. The same system allows, it is available on a mobile, on any browser. It allows the consultants who are sitting there delivering the project to punch in all their expenses, to update their timesheets. They need not to go to any third system. It is all integrated, all available. And finally, this is a customer billing. Based on the initial contract, based on the initial terms, the billing is initiated. It picks up the data from the calendars, timesheets, which are populated by the end consultants. It matches it with the customer's terms, rates, which were agreed in the contract, and creates the invoices, which can be overridden by the project manager if there is any necessity. And finally, practice director gets all the dashboard. Dashboards are available at every level. For this demo purpose, we're showing here at practice director level. As long as most of the things are in green and blue, she's a happy person. So it's all taken care of. And the project, it totally talks about all the key KPIs at any level. This is just a sample. We can provide any KPI that at any level, any hierarchy level, any manager, be it from finance, be it from operations, your bidding team, or your sales team, or your consulting team, resource management, delivery team, can be populated here. So now, what we saw was right from the beginning of the opportunity to customer billing and finally analytics for the senior management. These are the various stakeholders which participated in the entire project. These all are using a single tool. They can collaborate with each other at any point of time. They have complete visibility of the project right from the beginning to the delivery or in between all the stages. And they have all the collaboration tool of their choices. It is totally fused in, it is totally out of box integrated with all Microsoft products. And it is available on any platform. You can use any mobile platform, you can use any desktop, laptop, PDA. It works perfectly fine. It is delivered from Microsoft data centers across the world. We can provide you any local data center anywhere in the world, despite any geography barriers. And it supports most of the prominent languages across the globe. So I'll keep it here for the discussion. So any questions? You can bring it up now, or we can discuss it later. Yeah, sorry to rush in. I was given a little reduction in time slot. So, okay. So, if anybody wants to discuss in person, I'll be open for that. Thank you.
I would now like to call upon Archana Naidu to brief you upon the unconferencing session.
So good afternoon. So yeah, hi, better. So very interesting sessions we had. I think we had parallel session, but before we get into transformation and digital transformation, let me talk about the transformation. When I see this room here, we as an industry need a transformation, making sure that a lot more women are also part of this, because we have a serious gender disbalance here. If you look around, we have mostly men. So I think IT as an industry, ITES as an industry, and all of you as a community need to probably have more women being attracted to this segment. So yeah, so I'm sure you had a great morning session. There's time to gain and there's time to give. So you've gained, now you'll give, and then you'll gain and give. Let me explain you what. So the transformation, the digital transformation series that we are doing with Microsoft, when we started this whole journey of making sure that there's a lot of talk about transformation, that and it was only a talk then, and now thankfully it's in action. But we thought that if you're going to only talk about transformation and digital transformation in a bigger forum with a mixed crowd, generally the message gets diluted, because when a company or an enterprise is going to transform itself, there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of unique issues, a lot of unique hurdles that each industry segment deals with. So you cannot generalize it, you cannot dumb it down to a level where every segment will have a similar problem. So hence we initiated this something called roundtables, which are the focused roundtables for a particular industry, for a particular segment, and the leaders, the technology leads that all of you are. And hence the CEO roundtables are being organized. The one which I was moderating some time back is on a different level, and then we have the CXOs roundtable. So the idea here is to make sure that we go for a complete transformation and not take it in the bits and pieces. Because if the lead, the company, the organization head, the CEO is going to be mobilized and he takes decisions, it's all of us here, all of you who go to make sure that the transformation journey is complete. So that brings us to this very interesting segment where you are the value creators, you are the problem pokers, and you are the solution seekers. Because we believe that all of you are dealing with and living that reality, and you also have the solutions. So this is called unconferencing. I will explain to you what it is all about. So it starts with a discussion within yourself. Now I see some round tables, so we will make sure that we have four round tables. So whoever is, like for example, this table has only 3 gentlemen, so I would request you to be part of any of these round tables. So that means we have 4 round tables. The 4 round table each become one team, right? So we will have around 6 to 7 participants in each of the round tables. We'll be giving you 20 minutes, sharp 20 minutes, to think about the top 3 problems that you are dealing with. And the interesting thing about today's group is you are IT and ITES, and you are also talking transformation. So while you're talking transformation for your customers, you're also talking transformation within yourself, because if you're not going to transform, how are you going to transform the customers? And it's a very integrated value chain we are talking about. So please take 10-20 minutes to discuss that what are the 3 most challenging problems that you're facing with and the solutions toward it, because we can't just talk about problems without talking solutions. So that 20 minutes will be spent within each group on discussing the top 3 challenges and the top 3 solutions towards that. Also at the beginning of the discussion, please make sure that you decide or choose one leader who's going to lead this whole thing, not from the discussion point of view, but that leader will then join here on the panel discussion and will be the panelist. So after the 20 minutes of discussion, one person also make sure that jots down the problems and the solutions, so that your leader, when he comes and represents all of you, has the notes ready. So 20 minutes, discuss within yourself what are the problems, 3 typical problem areas and the solutions. Then we will have a panel discussion. So 4 round tables, each leader will come here. We will have a moderated panel discussion for another 15-20 minutes, and then it's an open session. So we shall begin now. So who's going to keep, Dheeraj, I would request you to be the timekeeper, and please gentlemen, if you can be part of this table, round table. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, so you can be part of this, and one person can join this table. So we'll give 20 minutes and we'll make sure that we have a great discussion. If you have any queries, please do ask me. I'll be around, and you'll have to turn your chairs like this so that you can talk. If you haven't introduced yourself to each other, yeah, that always happens in conferences. Please introduce each other. And yeah, the 20 minutes starts now. Hello. So the time is up and the 20 minutes are over. I hope you had a great discussion. It's always good to see the industry discussing so passionately. So just a minute. So let me call upon Subhajit Majumdar. He's the director of KPMG. He'll be moderating the session. So Subhajit, please come on stage and take over the proceedings from here.
Thank you so much, Archana. So, So may I request the leaders from respective tables to come up? I know my table, so Ganesh, if you could just come up. And from this table, sir, please come up. And the other two tables. Nice.
Chinu?
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Srinivas Rao.
Hi.
Hi, Srinivas. Mohit.
Just actions.
You want to sit in the center?
I will sit in the center.
That'll be better. I should sit here or?
It's okay.
Number 3 here?
Yeah, these two. So I'll call.
So,
Sure.
Just disclaimer. But the trick to be a leader is to arrive early.
Oh, yeah. We all three had coffee at the same time, yeah?
Hello.
In fact, I was forced to come
Sichana?
because there's no one else on the table here.
Okay. This is on, right? No.
So, gentlemen, we'll have 20 minutes of discussion, approximately 20 minutes, and we'll keep this very interactive. So, very good morning to everybody who's present here. Let me just have one line of introduction from each of us because we have probably not exchanged cards, all of us. I'm Shubhajit. I'm an associate director working with KPMG Management Consulting Services, primarily focused on digital strategy, customer experience, in the industries pertaining to retail, consumer products, food, agri, etc. We call it consumer markets. That's one liner from me. We can probably start from this side.
Okay, yeah. I think we had an introduction. So my name is Bala. I work from Digital Advisory Services in Microsoft. I work out of Bangalore. So I predominantly focus on retail and e-commerce sector.
Hi, my name is P. Srinivas Rao. I'm from Nous Infosystems. I head their software services business, and our focus is primarily around the digital technologies, how we can provide, solve business problems using the digital technologies for our customers.
Hi, my name is Chinnu Senthil Kumar, and actually I'm a partner and CTO in Xfinity Venture Partners. It's a B2B deep tech enterprise focused. And we invest in areas like AI, software-defined hardware, cybersecurity, IoT, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Mohit Saxena. I head the India business for Hinduja Global Solutions. AGS is a leading BPM service provider across the globe, and we service multiple clients in multiple industries across multiple requirements.
I am Ganesh Ramaswamy from the Himalaya Drug Company. I head the digital wing at Himalaya, responsible for digital initiatives at the Himalaya Drug Company.
So, thanks, gentlemen. we'll get along with the session, but I thought, I'll just leave 2-3 thoughts, before we start this discussion to set the context. I think most of you would have remembered that quote from the Nokia global CEO sometime back, who said that, I think we did not do anything wrong, but we got beaten in the market. Okay, and if you just reflect on that quote, I think that is a similar kind of a situation where a lot of enterprises may need to answer that question, that what did we not do wrong, or what did we not do, which kind of led to loss of market share, erosion of market share, or erosion of our positioning in the market. Having done everything right, having planned everything that we plan to do, right? So that's the context. Sharing a little bit of data from KPMG, we did recently we did a CEO Outlook survey in India, 2016, which covered about 350 odd CEOs in the country. A few facts. Everybody is very, very gung-ho about the India story. Okay, so about 54% of the Indian CEOs feel that India is the place where the next level of innovation will happen. This is where the experiments that are being done in a very, very unique marketplace, and it can be extended to the global scenario. Global CEOs also feel the same. So 35% or 38% approximately of global CEOs feel that India is the test bed for most of the innovation that is going to happen. About 46% of them feel that transformation is needed. You look at the numbers coming down slowly, okay? So 46% of people feel that transformation projects need to happen in their companies, they need to innovate. When they were asked that, how much of data-driven decisions do you take today, the response was about 28% do so. How many people believe that innovation is needed? The response was about 93%. But how many people are doing it? It's about 66%. Okay. So those are some of the numbers that sets the context. I would request Ganesh to start maybe, discussing the top 1 or 2 problems that you identified in the group, and then, we can go on to the solutions and have a good discussion here.
Okay. So Himalaya, from being a major pharmaceutical player, has also transformed into a big-time FMCG player, with personal care being a big segment in Himalaya. With technology infusion happening and e-commerce taking big shape in India over the last few years, we have seen that FMCG is one of the categories that the big players want to cash in on, other than the electronics and mobile space. What this has brought into brands like us is the challenge of maintaining the consumer trust. Because with a brand equity like Himalaya having its product portfolio across personal care, we need to ensure that the sellers who sell on Amazon, because it's an open platform, how do we ensure the products are genuine when it reaches the end consumer? I think the gentleman spoke about the various moments of truth here, and the one being the predominant 1.5 moment of truth, where a person opens his parcel and sees, what is that for me? Is it something that I want? If the product is not matching up to the expectation, or it's reached in a condition that's not taken care, how do we establish this trust with the consumer there? When it's in a retail, it's not a big problem, but it's e-commerce. Everything is in the box, and when the unboxing happens is when the consumer's moment of truth comes up. So the trust factor is something that's a big challenge we face with the technology infusion through e-commerce happening for us.
So the point that Ganesh is trying to make is with digital, the ownership of the brand is slowly getting blurred, because there are multiple faces in the market who's selling the same product. Therefore, the brand owner has to really be very careful about how he manages his reputation in the marketplace.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
We'll link that point to rest of the points that come up.
Sure.
So Mohit, if you could go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the challenges that we started off saying is, hey, do we have to transform? And the answer, Pat, came out, absolutely. Otherwise, somebody else would, and we would get beaten to the game. So the key significant challenge was, yes, each one of us wants to transform, but we're all doing it in our own silos. The good news was, in our group, there was a fair bit of diversity. We had people from pharma, building services, IT, ITES, healthcare services, and we had a consultant as well. And I think that helped quickly come up with some thought process around, it is very important for each one of us to get aligned to the big picture. as a top leader in an organization, what we need to do is to make sure that we are articulate at each level of communication that we're doing. So if we are trying to drive transformation in your own organizations with your clients and for the end customers as well, it is very critical for you to articulate that big picture in different ways, but fundamentally keeping in sight of the big picture. And I think that is really what came out as a big enabler to drive this change.
Sure. So very interesting, because Ganesh mentioned about the external facing aspect of digital, which is trust, maintaining trust with customers. The second point which is coming out from Mohit is about the internal organization. So how do you make a digital organization? How do you make everybody believe and align to a common mission of transforming yourself to a digital organization? The bigger the organization is, I think it's more difficult to do that.
Yeah, I'll just, thanks. And I'll slide, I mean, there's going to be some overlap, but I think I'll extend that actually. I think, in our team, we also had a diverse team actually. I think, what we feel, when we talk about digitization, in many organizations, basically there is a question about how much digitization is required, because that itself there is no clarity actually. And I'll give a couple of examples. I think we were discussing about it. If you look at the telecom sector, what is going on with Reliance Jio coming in, and all the established other players like Airtel and everything, their service is mainly focused on voice. But whereas, like Jio is throwing up and disrupting completely. And globally, if you look at it, I think, like the eSIM card coming into picture, where actually telecom companies are going to be just the carrier, right? With this kind of digitization coming into play, are they ready or not? That is one thing. And second thing, I think the favorite topic is the demonetization. The demonetization coming into picture, of course the Paytm is there, but what about the new models coming into picture, right? So I think net, the digitization is throwing a lot of uncertainty to the business, what they exist actually. But the question is whether the employees top to bottom, whether they know or not. Another example would be the enterprise security. Recently this banking, the debit card hacking actually. I think people are talking about it, but it took a couple of days to figure it out whether it is a mistake of SBI or the NCPI, the National Cash Payment. I forgot the full expansion actually. So the net people, I mean the employees and the key executive leaders not knowing how much digitization is required, and do they really understand the magnitude which is going to impact in the case of telecom? That's the main thing. So I think if you look at it, fundamentally, to get ready for this, first you had to serve your clients, but I think before that you had to internally transform. I think that's what you talked about actually. I think to transform, like the change has to come from bottoms up, because if you look at successful innovative companies, the changes had come from bottoms up actually. So the employee engagement has to increase and it has to go to the bottoms up, and we thought of few ideas. I think create a lot of mini incubators within the companies, and so to meet the disruptions actually. And the employee engagement has to shift from HR to like business strategy or strategy groups. I think Kiran, I think from Happiest Minds suggest kind of pointed in their company there is nothing called HR team. It's called people practice, right? So basically the HR or the notion of employee engagement has to change so that everyone gets empowered. He even talked about even their policies, internal policies. It came from crowdsourcing. So I think basically the change has to happen from bottoms up actually. That's the key suggestion I would look at it. We would recommend. Even thought leadership, it doesn't need to be thought leadership coming from the top. It can be a synthesis of ideas. You can collect a lot of ideas and synthesis and come up with it actually. So I think net, basically the transformation has to happen from bottoms to top.
Sure. So very interesting perspectives. Couple of points that are coming out is how much digitization is right and what are the barriers to digitization. The second part of the problem statement is how do we actually transform ourselves, and this has to be bottoms up. So a couple of perspectives on this is the way we see it and we interact with clients, we learn from our customers. There are two types of digital happening in this country at least. One set of digital is more about the company trying to say that we want to completely redefine our business model, come out with something new. It could be an ancillary service, it could be an auxiliary service, doing something very different, maybe related, maybe unrelated from your core. And it has more to do with the external customer community and being successful there in the market. The second part is actually to gearing up and becoming a digital organization to kind of translate that value to the customer, right? So the first one probably deals more about strategy, looks at white spaces in the market and finds out an opportunity and then responds to it. If you see an example, this is a WhatsApp forward which has been going around for the last 2 days. Authenticity of that is something that I cannot claim here, but there is this bookmychotu.com which has come up. I don't know how many of you have seen that. So the problem statement is there is a lot of queue in front of these ATMs. People have to collect cash, right? And people are not wanting to stand in the queue for 2 hours or 4 hours to collect their cash. So there's an app now where you can book a Chotu who will stand for you, and when he reaches the ATM, you can just come in and swipe your card. So this is it may be true, it may be false. I don't claim authenticity of that, but it's a very interesting concept. It's a digital business. This is what I call a digital business. And the second is more about a digital organization where everybody is innovating, ideas coming from below. And the challenge that I think that comes with it, companies like Infosys, Wipro, which are very structured, pyramidal, is how do you manage all this chaos? Because there's so many ideas, so many thoughts which would come up. How do you kind of give it a structure? How do you prioritize? Which ones do you bet on? Which ones do you don't? And so on and so forth. So maybe on this side when I come, if you could throw some light on how you're doing that in your organizations.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole idea of this digital transformation is, how do we ensure that our organization can sustain and survive for a long time? Now, if you look at examples of Citibank or BOF or Unilever or P&G, they survived for centuries. But there are some other examples like HP or Kodak or some of these, they shined, they became leaders in a very short time, but then they faded away very soon, right? So how do we really ensure that our organization is really sustaining into the future for the next generation, right? That's the whole purpose of the digital transformation. So in that context, all our table members were all from IT services companies. So we looked at from the IT services industry also is at the threshold at this point in the crossroads rather, right? So what do they need to do to really sustain this for the next century or so, right? So if you look at in the last 20, 25 years, the industry has grown from two parallel structures. One is the product-based business, other is the services-based business. But in the new generation, if you continue to focus in two different silos, you are not really solving the customer's problem. The so-called SI system integration business has to evolve into a solution provisioning. Look at what are the business problems that are available in the market, how I can come up with the solutions, whether it could be a product or a component of the product or the service around that, or multiple products coming together, right? So that is one main thing that we have identified as a thing that's to be focused for all the services companies, right? In my own company, Nous Infosystems, yes, we do have two different groups for providing the services and the products. But now we are looking at how do we really cross-leverage these two only by looking at the customer problems. Rather than, can I sell this product irrespective of what the domain is, what the customer is? Can I provide this service irrespective of what the customer is? So rather look at, this is the healthcare in one segment that we have identified, financial services within that, insurance as a sub-segment, and wealth management as a sub-segment we have identified. To solve these problems, how can I leverage all the products that I have, services that I have, capabilities that I have, and attack that market in a very specific solutions. So that is one approach that we are looking at. Other is the agility and innovation, because for the larger established companies, major threat is coming from the small niche players. So how do we really counter that? Because there are thousands of ideas, all of us know only 3% of the new startups really survive. 97% is actually failures. So if a larger organization has to invest on 10 different product ideas, hoping that 3 of them will succeed, they will not have the bandwidth, they will not have the resources to do it. Even if they have the financial resources, they may not be able to spend the management bandwidth to do that. So one suggestion is, what the industry is currently doing is go and incubate either internally or invest on the other startups through the venture capital kind of funds. which every Infosys or Wipro, all of them are doing, right? So that is the second idea that we thought maybe can help the organizations to build that skills which can be leveraged to solve the customer problems.
Sure. Srini, what you bring to the table is, what you're saying is, making all the services homogeneous so that, you take the entire package to the customer rather than trying to sell one service offering versus another, and there is a lot of internal competition also that happens when you do that. Really trying to solve the customer's problem and bringing your entire breadth to it. And the second thing that you're saying is, there are threat of startups. So instead of considering them as threat, you kind of bring them onto their side, collaborate with them, and build an ecosystem so that if you don't have a solution, you have a solution from partners,
yes.
to do. In fact, one point which I would like to leave to this panel, and we can discuss this, is in this digital era, if you see, I think the paradigm, and somebody mentioned, one of the speakers mentioned it earlier, I think it is not about building everything anymore. I think it is about bringing in the right connects. It's an interconnected world, internet of everything, as we call it. It could be data, it could be people, it could be resources, companies. Bringing the right thing, make a correct fitment of the problem that is at hand and trying to solve it rather than saying that I could do it or my competition could do it. I think it's really about solving the problem. If you don't do it, somebody else will do it, right? Bala.
So I think there are two key aspects that we are discussing. One is basically how do we respond to this from a digital, as an externally to the market, and how do we internally prepare ourselves, right, from the employees and capabilities and stuff like that. So let me respond to the first one, I think, right, because that's going to be very, very fundamental, because that is something which we discovered when we are talking to multiple clients, is that one of the key question is, where do we start, right? I mean, seeing the humongous amount of changes that are happening, you take any industry for that matter, be it media, retail, or e-commerce, where do we start, right? And how should we approach that? And how is it going to change this particular initiative as a company? I think these are three key questions which I'm sure every company is actually battling through when it's encountering the digital transformation as one of the key disruptive forces. So from just coding from a retail perspective, right? I mean, coding from a Himalaya perspective, we had an opportunity to talk to one of the lifestyle retail company recently. The same scenario is that I think your products are being sold at your own e-commerce store. You have your own brick and mortar store, as well as you have third-party retailers, somebody like Amazon and Flipkart as well. So if you are actually selling your product at multiple channels through your first party as well as third party, what's going to be your brand positioning? Right? How are you going to be perceived as a brand for your end customers? Would you still be perceived as a premium brand or a mass brand, because now that you're available everywhere, the premium aspect which was earlier associated is not going to be associated anymore. So what would that mean to your business? Would you have to actually reintroduce any new products per se? Right? So that is going to be a fundamental disruptor to your brand strategy in terms of how are you positioning and what kind of new products and services that you're going to come out to the market. That is number one. The second one, there is another key aspect which is coming up, is basically that earlier we used to have this concept of you have these nicely partitioned verticals. You have these manufacturing companies, you have these healthcare companies, you have these retail companies and financial sectors. There are the key notion which is emerging right now is that there are no longer verticals, there are no longer sectors, there are no longer industry specific companies, and every company is going to become a consumer centric company, which means that the industry borders are going to be blurring a lot, they are going to be diluted, which means that you would have to actually collaborate with some of the players who are periphery in your sectors and come out with the brand new products as well. So which means that you may not have an initial success when you actually come out of the new products and services, but based on a portfolio of initiatives that the company is going to launch, you may scale some of them, you may actually decommission some of them, and then probably moderate or diverse some of those initiatives. I think that would be the key approach which the businesses are actually battling with. And the other key aspect is that I think one of the key questions which we get asked often from our customers is that for example, technology is becoming democratized. It's is actually available to every single player in the industry, every single startup, be it a big company or a small company. So from that perspective, if I take this particular technology and then actually deploy it, will it give me my competitive advantage in the market, right? I think that's one of the key way to look at it if you are an early mover from a technology perspective. But the key aspect is that how is it going to be integrated with your business own capability? Right? For example, coming back to your own the retail example, from a retail perspective, is your product is always positioned as a cost competitive product, or is it on a customer experience or innovative product, right? So from the respective, if it's a cost competitive, of course you would have a world class manufacturing facility, you will have a pricing engine, so you would have built those capabilities over a period of years that you cannot, I mean, you can be a leader in that particular market, right? So digital, I mean, technology, when it is actually combined with the respective business capabilities and strengths, I think that's going to give a leading edge in the market.
Thanks, Bala. So great points. I think I'll dwell a little bit on the point that you made on premium brands. My experience with retailers as well has been that retailers tend to feel that there's less control now of what they do with their brands and products in the market, because there are different models of engaging with third-party marketplaces and other online channels that are coming apart from your own. And once you've given your products over to that particular organization, whether there'll be deep discounting, whether the position will be stacked against, say, a brand which you don't want to position yourselves with, those controls are limited, right? So once you've gone into that domain, while on the upside it gives you reach, it gives you scale, it gives you more sales, more GMV, on the other side you lose a bit of control and what you want to do. A lot of retailers, the approach that they are taking to kind of solve this problem is, creating exclusive brands, private labels for channel-specific selling. So if you're selling to, say, third parties, you probably make a private label different from your original brand, which you don't want to cannibalize, and sell on that particular platform. However, the question remains that, would you do it on your own? Would you continue to control both physical and online channels yourself, or would you really go into this democratization and let everybody else sell for you? There are trade-offs. The answers are not known, but I think everybody's figuring it out that way. Does that, to some extent, answer your question?
Yeah, I think perfectly there. Yeah. So it's like I said, it's more of a disruption now, and a lot of learning in the process. And like you rightly mentioned, opening up to, say, platforms with sellers coming on there with a lot more transparency. So to answer the question on trust, again, what we did is we got in a strategic alliance with most of the platforms to understand and see the transparency of the supply chain there, to ensure the products that are supplied to consumers are the ones that we put into the market. And we also ensured that they undergo a rigorous QA before the products are actually shipped to the consumers also. So I think the trust factor is pretty well covered there. And I was just talking on the table there, when a consumer is upset, the first place he takes off his vent is on the social media. So what do we do about that, and how do we address that? We thought of an idea of creating a consumer response team who would basically listen to the social bit of it, and what was displayed earlier in a presentation of what is being said about your brand every day. So we tried and not only have a team internally, but also associate with a few agencies who look into the aspect day in, day out. So moment a comment goes on Facebook or Twitter, we have a team that would address the consumer's concern there. So the trust factor surrounding the brand is also maintained on the online space there.
In every business, almost all businesses which are B2C, I think the direct connect with consumer has increased a lot. The consumer is able to speak about you, about your reputation, about your brand much more directly, and you have a choice to either respond and take some action against it, to kind of cater to his complaint or grievance, and you may choose not to do. And I think the winner will emerge over a period of time about who is responsive and who's not, and how does the customer then align to that particular brand. I want to throw open a question to maybe Mohit for your kind of business, which is the outsourcing business. It's been there for quite some time. Yep. The primary advantage was cost arbitrage. from matured markets to, say, emerging markets. Now, with this digital revolution happening, what we are seeing in almost every business, every industry is that life cycle or lifespan of businesses are shortening because you don't know what is the next disruption which will make you redundant. How are you kind of, catering to that kind of a challenge, and what's your response to it?
Sure. So this is a real issue. Okay. Traditionally, this industry, as I think Deepak had said, it is an industry which is built around processes. And I think that's clearly at the root of the problem. When you build processes, you try and protect them. You try and sustain them. When actually the need of the hour is to understand how are you adding value to your client. There was a time when cost arbitrage was one part of it. And then we came into a point where we started innovating, putting in best practices and thereby delivering better operational efficiencies, which then led to the next level of cost arbitrage. I think today the time is to go beyond your client and understand who is the end consumer and how do you make sure that the customer experience that you are providing, because ultimately while the end customer belongs to the client, actually it is us who are interacting with the end clients. So how do we make that the moment of truth? How do we make sure that that's where we are enhancing the customer value experience? I was sharing earlier in the morning, one of our processes in the UK actually is for an automobile manufacturer, whereby, and this is premium automobile manufacturing, whereby a lot of senior people would want to take a test drive, but they do not have the time to do that. And what we've done is, over a period of time, we've now developed a complete video suite, and our own agents who are taking those calls or attending to these kind of customers, premium customers, have actually driven all the vehicles, competitive vehicles as well. So what they do is it's a complete symphony between the video being run in front of the customer and telling him, say, when I drove this customer, for example, when you sit in the front seat, this is where it is, this is how it compares to your other two competitive brands, and suddenly you have now taken the showroom or the test driving experience to the customer right where he is sitting. Now that's the way to innovate versus simply saying, hey, if somebody calls in and says, I want to take a test drive, and you just simply book it and say, okay, your car will reach at that time. So that's the way to keep innovating and keep providing that enhanced customer experience to your clients to make sure that you stay relevant in the industry. And that's the way we are working it out.
Complete immersive experience for the client and basically solving a problem that he had, which is time constraint of the premium customer to come into. Absolutely. Connected to that, I'll just ask you, since you mentioned data security, cyber security is one of the threats. With more and more of this, so digital is all about data, and all of us are consuming and generating tons and tons of data with every click of a button on our smartphones these days. And that data, invariably, consciously or unconsciously, we are allowing applications to kind of consume that data and understand us better. So in your view, as this proceeds, and there's more and more of my data, personal data, which I think is personal, is in the public domain, what would be some of the best practices to kind of ensure that cybersecurity is not breached?
So I think the cyber security, if you look at it, actually, now you had to look at India versus, like other countries actually. I think, still the awareness, like how much is my data should not be shared. I think there should be some kind of, like awareness should be created, because I think there are a lot of cyber security solutions are there. I think the end users, they don't know for sure whether, it should be shared or not. I think the classical example is recently, there was a dispute between FBI and Apple, because Apple did not want to share the data, whereas FBI wanted to share the data actually. So I think, if you look at it, in India's specific case, we need to come with a framework to understand how much you had to protect, that itself is not there actually. I think you had to start from there. And after that, you need to have an umbrella framework, because I think when we talk about cyber security solutions today, it is more point solution. But I think with digital convergence, your device is connected. Either you are connected to the cloud, you are connected to your enterprise, or consumer, whatever it is. So you have to have an umbrella security framework, be it an enterprise or like it could be for your own use. I think third thing is actually what I keep hearing more about cyber security is like individual cyber security, and we talk about enterprise actually. But I think there's a clear lines getting clearly demarcated actually. So there should be clear practices for each and everything actually, because I think now when we talk about cyber security, we just talk about cyber security for individual users and clubbing it with enterprise security. But I think the needs are completely different. For an example, for a BFSI kind of company, the enterprise security and the security practices are completely different, right? Whereas if I'm talking about a mobile security, it is completely different actually. So there should be clear demarcation between them, and we need to put an umbrella framework, and I think create awareness what is my privacy and what is not, because I clearly expect down the road there will be many situations where cyber security, where you will see FBI kind of Apple kind of situation, because the another added complexity in India is many of these mobile phones are basically designed or imported from outside, and they are not necessarily written for techno-legal requirements in India. So I think the whole thing actually it's going to throw a lot of complex actually. I think we should get prepared for that.
Sure. Yeah, just to add to that, actually, the law themselves have to go through a complete transformation. We're dealing with archaic laws.
Right. It's not in tune with the current condition,
where the technology is taking leaps and bounds. Correct. And we're still bound by the archaic laws. That itself has to go through transformation.
So one last thought, from the panel this side is, what do you think is prohibiting organizations to really become digital or deliver digital experience to customers?
Yeah, I think it's fundamentally the culture, the ability to take the risks, right? Because if you look at from the IT services industry perspective, right? Yes, because of the cost arbitrage, there was an easy flow of business which was growing at much healthy pace. So nobody really bothered to really look at how should I be innovative, creative, where should I invest next. But that in the last 3-4 years, or 5 years rather, the growth rates have fallen down. Then everybody started thinking of. So unless it hits you on your core business, people are not responding. So I think culturally, organizations should be really looking at, instead of waiting for somebody else to disrupt your business, how can you disrupt yourself? One of my favorite examples is Gillette. They invented series of different blades over a period of time. Right? They were disrupting themselves instead of waiting for somebody else to come. Till such a time, they were growing healthy. But after that, they didn't know what else to do, so now they got acquired, right? So that's how the organization can really think ahead, and always, again, another example that I want to quote is the book written by Andy Grove, Only the Paranoid Survives. It was written in 2000. That time it was much more stable environment, right? But he still was really paranoid about his own business getting impacted, right? But today, that's all the things that he quoted in that book are, today we have a lot of examples of that, real life experiences of that. So how we can predict that and then take those risks and prepare for the organization for that. So that's the major inhibitor, I would say. If you look at even the cash is not a real problem. It is about the ability to take that risk and take that shot. All the Indian IT service companies have got a lot of cash piling on their balance sheets. But can I get the real same rate of return that I'm getting in the current business by investing elsewhere? That is the question that they didn't have an answer for. Right? When the current business start getting hit, the profitability is dropping, growth is dropping, then they didn't have a choice.
Yeah. So just to add to, if you don't mind, actually many of the IT service companies, even big global companies, they're always caught up in the treadmill every 3 months earnings release. So basically, even some of the big companies, why they could not really innovate, because they have to report to the Wall Street or India, Dalal Street, whatever it is, every 3 quarters. If the revenue drops, everyone says, oh, there's something wrong with it, right? Whereas if you really look at innovation,
that requires long gestation cycle, right? And only if you allow that kind of thing, then you can do innovation actually. So they are also caught up with the treadmill actually.
Yeah. So
let me add to that. I mean, to answer the question in terms of what is actually stopping us from embracing digital. I mean, I could add more from the IT and IT-enabled service perspective is not to look digital as a yet another service line, but actually it's a true change which is going to impact the company. Right. When I say true change, I think it has to reflect in our day-to-day operations. So, for example, sometime back we had some conversations in terms of enterprise social, right? Let's say if an IT services company goes to as a banking and financial services client, why don't you why don't you adopt enterprise social for your clients, your end clients? The key question is how do you adapt yourself, right? For example, in your day-to-day operations, be it project delivery services or application development or system integration or innovation management, how do you use it internally to mobilize ideas from your own workforce in your day-to-day? And how to use data as one of the key ingredient for your decision making, or do you treat data as a first-class asset in your own enterprise performance management? These are the key questions which are going to drive us to the next orbit in the digital. The more that we adopt and embrace these practices, I think sooner we would be able to be a better player is what my reading would be.
Sure. Interesting thoughts. So I'll just share some closing comments, and I think that's a collective thoughts, coming from the panel. Digital business, as we understood, is about doing something new. There are 2-3 aspects to it, So one is possibly predicting a spot of new opportunity. So we gave those examples, probably digital business is about spotting an opportunity which was not there and finding a niche and quickly, in a very agile way, deliver a solution to it and solve the problem. Okay, so that's about the business characteristic. The second aspect of a digital business possibly is about delivering a very unique personalized experience, because personalization has been a thrust of the discussion throughout the day today. So treat every customer individually, cater to his needs and respond to him or her. Third is about operating in real time. So how quickly and responsively can you, go back to the customer with his problem and solve his problem? So it's all about data again. So how do you analyze data in the real time and quickly take a decision and go back to the customer? The second thought that I would like to leave with is who's driving this digital transformation? So we got some interesting perspectives that it should be bottoms up. It should be the people who are really fresh without any barriers to their mind, having entered the corporate structure. 2 more stakeholders are very important in this digital transformation. So one is customers, your customers. Your customers are actually forcing you to become digital. The second is your competition, because if you don't do, you're always thinking who's that competitor of mine who's going to do the next Uber for me, and then I have a problem, right? So that those 2 stakeholders are also very important to kind of watch. The third aspect that I want to leave is, there was a survey done globally on the digital maturity index kind of a survey, which basically says that there are 5 categories of companies today across the globe. So about 5% of businesses are what you call digital leaders, okay, who are saying that we will be the first and everything else we do will be viral after that. Okay, that's only about 5% who want to take that risk. The second category is digital adopters. That's about 14-15%. Okay, who says that okay, there is a trend that's happening. We'll innovate it out here first. Okay. The biggest chunk are two categories, which says digital evaluators. So they are still evaluating, and that's where I see the India market and customers in India. Major portion of those customers in this bucket, because everybody's thinking that who else is doing, okay, is it working? Okay, fine, if it's working, then I'll invest my money into it. Okay, or doing small proof of concepts and pilots to see that if it's working out, is it giving me some kind of a ROI, and then I want to invest full scale. The fourth is a category called digital followers, who say that okay, let somebody else do and fail or succeed, and then we'll do it, right? And the fifth is, of course, a set of laggards who kind of will wake up at the end, right? So that's about sharing some perspectives, on digital transformation. It's a very complicated, big subject, cannot be discussed and resolved in 20 minutes of discussion. But I think, to end this panel discussion, very good inputs from all the panelists. Thank you so much. I think this word digital, coinage of this word digital, is one single coinage that I remember for the last 15, 20 years, which has been so amorphous, which even after 2-3 years of being in this business and delivering it for customers, I still cannot define what it is, because in my mind it's something, and the team member I take to the client has something else in his mind. So maybe it's going to evolve, or there will be something else after digital. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you. That was a very good discussion, and I'm sure for want of more time, we would have done a better thing. So this concludes the session today, and I think we have, after the food for thought, let's have food for the tummy as well. So join us for the lunch, and thank you so much for coming. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very good inputs. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, sure.